Smashing Scotland.
Good old Scotland, man.
Mm.
And welcome to another fine edition of Life is People. Well excited tonight to be having in the house, into the podcast, we're having the Machines in Heaven from as we were saying pre-podcast, from the land of the free.
The land of the free and the brave.
So, before we go any further, just all introduce yourselves to who you are to the world. Just go through yourselves name by name, what you all play in the band.
From left to right, Connor?
From left to right. Start with Connor.
Oh, he's
Oh, we can't hear him.
silent. We should have checked. I was thinking Connor's been really fucking quiet.
Connor, we can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Okay.
No, he's quite strong and silent, Connor, isn't he?
So Connor, as I can sort of inform people, Connor plays guitar, the synth, and he does a bit of production. So we can sort Connor out. So into the middle, go on, Davey, tell us what you do.
Right, I'm Davey. Hi, sorry. I do synth and guitar and a bit of production as well.
And vocals.
And vocals, yeah. Sorry.
I'm Greg. I do production, keyboards. I was the one of the founding members as well.
So, as people may be aware or not be aware, they're all based in Glasgow, although, as we were talking pre-podcast, you're not all originally born and bred in Glasgow, but they're based in Glasgow. So, like I said before, we're talking pre-podcast. It's great to have a band from Scotland in at last, because we've spoken to people around the world, so it's great to have you boys in. So, I mean, I think the first thing I really want to sort of I think it sounds a really basic sort of question, but where did you get the name Machines in Heaven from? I mean, that was one of the things when I first came across. It's like, what a great name for a band, because I know from previous experience how hard it is to get band names. So where did the Machines in Heaven come from?
Yeah, well, we went through pretty much exactly the same process as you described. David and Connor hadn't actually joined at that point, so it was basically me and founding member Graham, who's since left, and we basically went through the same thing of how do you actually find an original name. We were talking about, is it Them Crooked Vultures, which I always thought was a bad name, and apparently they picked that because they literally couldn't find anything else that hadn't been picked already, So, and Graham just had a brainwave of Machines in Heaven. It just came to him. There wasn't any particular, I suppose, the machine side of things and the heaven side of things. There's a bit of imagery there, maybe sort of electronic, but also, euphoric.
It always reminds me.
That kind of idea, but there wasn't really any particular reasoning behind it, or there wasn't any, phrase that we got it from or something like that.
Yeah, for me, it kind of brings up a juxtaposition of the whole artificial intelligence, sentient being, and then the idea of, could a robot get in heaven?
Well, it's like that's what it kind of reminds me of fundamentally. I don't want to say that was the main reason for joining the band, but it was definitely definitely a big smell. It's like, that's a fucking cool name, man. It reminds me of kind of. I mean, I know it's a bit like pseudoscience and stuff, but it reminds me a wee bit of the kind of romanticized Von Daniken sort of Chariots of the Gods and all of that, and the kind of space engineers sort of stuff, and it kind of reminded me of that as well. So that's what I take from it. But yeah, I like the whole. I like the name a lot.
Can you hear me now?
I can see it.
Yes.
So it's not egoistic.
Yes. Great. I was just trying to get my mic to work there. It just for some reason wasn't working.
Sweet.
No, it's fantastic.
You can actually hear me?
I'll say it's fantastic to hear the name Van Daniken dropped in the conversation. I hadn't heard that name dropped in the conversation for ages, man. I was a massive fan of Van Daniken, man. So good, all kudos to you for even knowing who he is.
Yeah. I grew up with that
do.
book, actually. It was a weird one. I had that bookshelf. When I was growing up, I had this bookshelf. And I always had it was mainly shit Enid Blyton and the Famous Five and all of that. I guess it was just an encouragement to read and whatnot. But I always had Von Daniken in the corner, Chariots of the Gods, and I remember reading that when I was a kid and going, "Wow, see if this shit is real. That is so cool, man." But
one advantage of the name is it's sort of giving us some room to play with the robot theme and stuff. So on Twitter we were following the Voyager probes and things like that, and tweeted messages to the Voyager probes, you know, fellow machines in heaven and things like that. So it's allowed us a bit of imagery to play with that, you know, and sort of play on the robotic thing. And so we try and follow, you know, robots and spaceships and space probes, and you know, tweet at them and stuff like that. You know?
That's very that's very cool.
One of the themes running through it, you know. So.
Man, that's very cool. Did you when you tweet? Do you get any? I mean, I'm speaking to someone who doesn't know. Do you get any replies?
Not from sadly, not from the Voyager space probe. If we had if I had, I'd definitely be retweeting that shit, you know. But no, sadly not. No response yet.
So, where did you all sort of meet each other then? Was it just this random chance, or did you? I mean, what's the sort of history behind how you all met?
Online music presence, really. I suppose we were
music. I'd say the Black Lantern net label, who we actually just announced that today. They just released their final compilation as a net label, but they're doing other stuff. So they've basically been going for about 5 years, and we'd all had stuff. They basically mainly released free stuff. What do you call it? Creative Commons type stuff, but it's really high quality stuff. Lots of rappers, lots of hip hop producers, quite a lot from Glasgow, but not everyone's. You know, there's people from all over, and we had our first EP out on them, and so did Connor. So we kind of knew about each other from being label mates and stuff like that first.
Okay, so you had previous bands then?
Connor was Utani, that was his solo act. We've all done our own solo projects. We've all done our own solo projects. David does a thing called Blood, and I was recording as Magic Daddy for about 10 years as well. So yeah, we've all come out of this from doing completely separate solo electronic projects, basically.
So this is a specific question I really got for sort of like Davey and Connor. How long have you both been playing guitar?
Jesus, man. I've been playing for about 12 or 13 years now, I think. Wow. I started when I was quite young, because I had first learned how to play drums and piano, but I hated it. I just thought it wasn't in my head, it wasn't expressive enough, even though it clearly is, but I just was I want to play guitar, I want to and took some lessons and rejected them, and I've been just teaching myself for 13 years now.
Okay.
So I've been playing it for a while.
I started playing when I was about, I was only about 13 or 14, but it was basically because I was in a band at the time, guys and the guitarist of the band, somebody bought me a guitar, and the guitarist of the band kind of laughed at me. He was like, "You're just going to look at that guitar because you're not going to play it," stuff. And I was just like, "Well, fuck you, mate." It's I need to learn how to play this fucking guitar now, So I just basically just ended up playing. It was weird. It was 1 minute, I'm playing trying to play Love Me Tender and stuff, and read tab and everything, and then I just kind of gave up on that. Just went freestyle for however long that's been. I don't want to say how long that's been. Give away my age.
So have you both? Did you both just go straight to electric guitars?
I went straight to electric guitar. Then I got an acoustic and went to that, which is I guess kind of unconventional. Most people start an acoustic because it helps your fingers, helps build up the strength. But yeah, I just went straight on a little, I think it was a crap £20-30 Strat, and that's what I started on. And
I'm the same, because I was terrified about playing the electric guitar. I'd had an acoustic for years, and I was absolutely terrified. But do you know what it was? Because I've been around so many musicians who could play really good stuff on it. I'm like, I don't want to showing up. So I remember the first time I strapped on electric, it was like, hey, all the fun we can have with distortion.
Yeah. Just turning the amp up bit by bit. I remember doing that when I was a kid, when I was
pushing it,
finding out how to really rock it, and I was turning the guitar up a little bit, turning the distortion up a little bit, and just fuck it, man, just thing and just going mental. It's the best thing to do. It's a great feeling. But yeah, I don't think you ever recreate that. It's a bit like the first time you have a smoke or something, you don't ever really recreate that feeling again,
No, I like you saying, man. And the same sort of goes to you, Greg. I mean, did you start from piano, then work your way to synths, or you'd always been started with synths?
Kind of, yeah. I should say I don't play guitar at all. I did try briefly when I was quite young, but I played piano classically. Was it grade 4? I failed.
Wow.
When I was quite young. And I kind of hit that age when, you know, I like hit 15, 16, and I do regret it in a way, but I basically, you know, got more into like going out and girls and stuff, and kind of slightly lost track with the music side of things. But within a few years, I got really into electronic stuff and DJing. When I moved away, I moved to Glasgow, and that kind of got me back into it by a roundabout route. I ended up doing a course, figured out how to do it on a really basic, ancient computer that my dad had given me. And, you know, sort of got back into it, sort of relearned. But I think electronic music's quite bad for keeping up to date with being good at playing. Because for me, you're just lazy. I just program everything. So being back in a live band again, which has only been for about 3 years, I've had to like relearn how to play again. And I'm always a bit terrified because I know I'm not, you know, I'm a bit rusty. I'm getting better again, but I'm still definitely a bit rusty.
So do you get to play piano much now then, or?
Not an actual piano now. I just play synths. I would actually love to have a go on a piano. We were actually just talking about this, weren't we, the other day?
Yeah,
we're planning on getting quite a lot of, or well, maybe not a lot of, but a bit of like upright piano. I really love these particular kinds of upright piano. You know, they sound a bit drunk and they sound a bit like fucking, you know, underwater or something. And you know, it's weird. It's like if somebody's grown up with that, you know, and quite a lot of people have grown up with a sort of place that has had an upright piano, and it's kind of, you get like fond memories from it, or at least I do, you know. And it's this particular tone of piano sound that I really love, man. A great example is John Hopkins. Do you know John Hopkins? He's like kind of electronic-y, like sort of. It was a great album he brought out last year. Was it maybe 2 years ago or something? I think it's a bit older than it. Yeah, but there's a great track on that. Or in fact, there's a great series of tracks where you can tell that it's that particular sound of piano, you know. It's just this really like mournful sound. I really love it, man. And we were talking about this the other day. Sorry, I went off on a big fucking spiel there, man. Sorry, but we were talking about this the other day and how like we would quite like to get one of those in the studio, but of course they weigh like tons, and you know, I don't know if you've ever tried to move one of those. Well, it's certainly like not a very fun thing to do. Man.
I actually had to move a grand piano once for an Elton John tribute act at a studio. And the thing was, this guy didn't
play Connor's just one
piano.
In this debate.
This guy didn't play piano, and he was miming, but it was a real piano he had in front of him. And see, moving that, it took about 6 people. All for this guy just to dress up like Elton John and not play it. And not
he
play
was miming. He was miming. So was he like pressing down on the keys whilst he was playing?
Yeah, well, he was like pressing down the keys, but also he didn't know how to play piano, so it was just like while like we were filming him, like, and it was awful. Sorry, that's another tangent, but like I just had to say that. Like, that was a horrible moment.
What the fuck? No, I won't go, right, because like, have you ever seen? Is it like that? Have you ever seen that website you can go? Hacker type, it's called. And you just like you just basically have a fit. You just like you just hit any key you want, but it looks like you're doing code on like a cool hacker screen sort of thing, like in the movies. I just have like visions of this fucking guy just like in this piano, like hitting all the keys. And something, you know, what would it even sound like? Do you know what I mean? Anyway, sorry.
No, but yeah, I think it's on that very, you know, you're saying about the upright piano. I mean, I get that one completely. I've always wanted an upright piano, and it wasn't until I'm moving up to Scotland that I was blown away. I mean, I'm sure it's the same in Glasgow, but I know for definitely Paisley and Greenock and stuff like that. There's so many charity shops or reclaim shops because it's all the old churches and stuff. I mean, I bought an upright piano for here, and it cost me under 50 quid. And like you say, it's an old upright. It's got. I mean, I'm sure it's not perfectly in tune and stuff, but the sound it makes. But like you say, it took 6 minutes to take it up my driveway. It was like, good luck to you boys. You know what I mean? I got no chance of moving that. Do you know what I mean? But like you said, I one of the great things about being up here, I mean, you should look into. There's so many of these old cheap pianos around because
like Gumtree and stuff.
Because I mean, in England,
even for free. To what to like actually get, they can't afford to like move it, so they'd rather you came and just took it for free.
Yeah, man. We got me and one of my friends had got like somebody to give us a piano, but then of course when we took it from, well, we went down to get it and it was only 2 of us. We were like, well, fuck this, you know. So we took it basically back to the flat, but we couldn't get it up the 2 flights of stairs because there was only 2 of us. So we thought we'll leave it outside until the morning. But because we're in a pretty bad area, somebody fucking set fire to it overnight. I mean, I like to think that it's some sort of like contemporary art piece or something. But we woke up and it was like smoldered. It was just totally burned out.
An Elton John impersonator was playing on a flaming piano.
Yeah, it's like a Jodorowsky movie or something.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we're definitely not playing a piano live, by the way, guys. So that's not happening.
Okay, fair enough.
In the studio, yeah. Let's do it in the studio, but not live.
So you obviously, like you're saying, you all met and you all came together and stuff like that. I mean, what was the sort of first tune you actually made together? Can you remember the sort of first tune you all sort of put down and went, okay, we've actually got something going here, you know?
Well, it was a remix.
Yeah, no, we will.
There were several remixes
we actually done together, like as in one of our tunes that we've done together. What would that have been, Greg? Because this, like, we work in this really weird way, man, where like we all have, like, we basically all do like we basically make loads of fucking music, right? And like individually, and then we kind of come together and go like, right, this sounds amazing, and like we all kind of just bounce ideas off stuff. So like there's never really been a track that we've just kind of, or there has been tracks obviously that we've built from the very, very, very ground up, but usually there's a foundation in place beforehand from somebody individually, and like we all build on it together, sort of things. So I'm trying to think of, like, Greg will know this, but I'm trying to think of the one song or one of the songs. Yeah, Taxpayer. Yeah. I don't know if has that even been released. That came out, didn't it? No.
So the first song.
Well, there you go. We fucking. Well, that's the first one. Yeah.
What happened was, when we first all started working together, we were actually promoting the previous album, or we were about to release the previous album, Borders Breakdown, which David and Connor didn't actually write on because they joined afterwards and they'd been playing it live. So obviously they've been itching to get writing new stuff, because that was always the idea. They weren't ever going to be like session musicians. They were always going to be, we're all going to create stuff together. So basically, as soon as they joined, they both started coming up with loads of ideas, but kind of half ideas, and the idea is then they bounce it to me, I come up with some bits, add some beats or whatever, bounce it to Connor, he had some guitar or whatever. And that's basically the kind of template we've used ever since. So each track
kind of comes from, like, a lot of tracks are like more complete than others. Like, for example, on the new, or when the working stage, because on the newer EP, the Holy Particles track was a track that basically was almost done, like, and then we brought it and then we kind of just added sprinkled it. So it works like that, like in each kind of individual way. So like somebody might bring something that's kind of like really to the cusp of almost being finished and just needs like a tiny little bit added to it, or like it might be just a foundation or an idea. So it's a kind of weird way to work, basically.
Well, that's the thing, it's sort of like by giving it to someone else, even if it's nearly done, it like just takes it to that next level that you probably couldn't have done by yourself, if you know what I mean. Like they could, like, used to could, or whatever, like, could add something else that we couldn't add, like, by yourself.
And also we all vowed that we, it's basically complete control to the other person then. We're not being precious about each other's stuff. So if I give an idea, Davey comes up with a completely different section at the end or whatever, I'm like, right, let's go with it. So we go over these ideas rather than arguing about it and saying no. Well, there's a little bit of argument to begin with, but usually we give it.
We don't really have big fallouts about it.
Nah.
It's like ridiculous.
So on that very sort of like following that train of thought, like you're saying, you're all sort of coming together, and you're like you just said, then you're all sort of like at what point, and is this a collective decision, or is it like one of you makes a decision? At what point do you know when it's like that's it, that's done? That's finished.
That's a very difficult question, because
I'm probably more of a stickler about that.
Man.
I'm probably more of a stickler about that than the others, maybe. I don't know why, but they've got that obsessive nature about it. It's got to be absolutely perfect, And if even there's a little detail that you left off that you didn't notice, it's like, but we're quite democratic about it. I think we're, I don't think we're not complete obsessives that stuff never gets finished. We get stuff done. So
So like you said, then you're saying you're quite a sort of stickler for that kind of stuff, Greg. I mean, what's the longest you sort of done? You know, like when you know, like you thought, okay, and that you've taken it and thought, okay, I need to add this and this and that. Is there a particular track or that's maybe taken weeks and weeks and weeks from when the other two gave it to you, or?
Well, try the National Monument on the first album, which basically took 3 years. So,
3 years.
yeah. Well, it was basically done, and then just before we were going to release the album, we were like, oh shit, right, let's just add some more bits. So yeah, that's what happened. So again, just before we released it, you know, I suppose after 2-3 years, you notice the faults, and you're like shit. So you end up, if you get a chance, you end up adding something else. So that's what I do.
Well, one of the, I mean, you just mentioned it then, and it was one of the things I was definitely going to sort of ask you about, because I've got quite a few sort of things going through my head about this song. You mentioned the song Borders Breakdown. Now, I mean, that song, there's two things I sort of want to like, particularly would love to hear your thoughts on. Was one, it's great to hear a band coming up with a tune that's 9 minutes long. That's brilliant. I love that stuff because it's kind of like none of this 4-minute crap shit. And the other one was, who did the visuals for that video? Because the visuals on YouTube for that are immense. So please expand on that, even anyone of you.
That's a good question. The visuals, would that be Stuart Silver still?
No, wait, what, for the National Monument?
No, Borders Breakdown.
Borders Breakdown. Yeah, that was Stuart Silver, I believe. That done
I believe who did the. Yeah. Quite a few, like, it was used by quite a few different things though, because we did a random search and we found out quite a few people had used it in a soundtrack for videos.
What was his name? It was Bill Watterson, the guy who
yeah. It got used on a documentary about Bill Watterson, the Calvin and Hobbes guy.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, it got used in the background to an interview with him.
It was his first interview, first public interview, like, that he'd actually done, and we just so happened to be in the background, like, playing, which was pretty crazy.
Yeah, the visuals for Borders Breakdown, though, that was definitely Stuart Silver. He's a pretty talented visuals dude, a guy that we know. Again, Black Lantern connected, I believe Stuart is.
Yeah. What's he go under as, like, as his art type name? You know what I mean? I can't remember what it goes up.
You're on the spot, man. Oh no.
His name's Stuart Silver anyway. I'm sure he does have a king name, but I don't know what that is.
He's brilliant. He's a really, really, really good artist, man. I really enjoy his work. Can't remember his fucking art name though.
And like I said, did that song start as a 9-minute song, or did it start as a 3-minute song and it just got added to until it was a 9-minute song? I mean, what was the story behind that?
Well, I should probably be brutally honest and say I didn't actually write that song. Graham wrote it, and another guy produced it. Because Graham, who formed the band, he wrote all the music on the first album. I produced quite a bit of it, but another guy was also involved in production. So annoyingly, though we love the song, it's actually not one that I had anything to do with.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Having said that, I've played it so many times, and we were there. I mean, we put the album together and mastered it and put it all together. So, you know, I know a reasonable amount about it, and certainly I'm aware that it came from definitely a couple of different songs stitched together.
Well, lie to us. Lie to us and tell us how it came about.
Well, to be fair, like, I mean, to be fair, the thing that the ethos that I have about the whole sort of most of the first album and stuff, like, we, like, the songs that we still play from the first album, like, we only play, like, I think maybe 2 songs live now we do, and that's the Eternal Now and Borders Breakdown. But they see the minute that we started working on those, and then when we had to cut them down to the 3-piece, the 3-piece kind of like scenario where, like, you know, we lost a member essentially. It's just been the songs have kind of taken on a sort of life of their own anyway. Like, they don't really, to me, they don't sound like, when we play them live, to me they don't sound like the song on the album as much as they, you know, there's all sorts of different intricacies and stuff like that, and I guess that's just artistic license, but and it's kind of catharsis in a way for like me and Connor, because, you know, we've only really written a lot of new stuff for us, so, like, the older stuff, you know, it's got quite a big emotional attachment, obviously, because we've played it live for years. But at the same time, you know, we've kind of taken it upon ourselves to sort of make it a wee bit different, improve it, and, like, what we see is improving it, you know, and, like, you know, just generally fuck about with it, make it a different sound, because it's all about, you know, like Greg says, it's not something that really, or sorry, like Ryan had kind of insinuated, it's not something that really matters. Like, you know, it's something that is essentially we like. What we're trying to say, yeah, we just like take artistic license with it, you know, just fuck around with it, make it like our own instead of kind of relying on sort of like playing it as it is on the album live and stuff like that. I can't even remember where I was going with this, but yeah.
I would say that the songs that, you know, the original founding member Graham wrote and the songs we produced together have formed the template for the band thereafter, really, because the idea was always it was going to be quite intricate, there's going to be quite a lot happening. We always finish on a big outro, you know, and that's certainly the Borders Breakdown, you know, finishes on a very strong outro, so pretty much every song we do has to finish on a strong outro. That's kind of one of our rules. We haven't got that many, really. We pretty much, you know, in terms of style and stuff, we try and do lots of different things.
When we do,
one of the rules is finish on a strong outro, you know.
They end up like demos. A lot of demos end up like 12, 13 minutes long and stuff, which is a bit fucking much. But yeah, a lot of the new demos for the demos for the new album, some of them have averaged, most of them have averaged beyond 8 or 9 minutes. So it's pretty, it gets pretty gnarly. Like,
I tend to come up with quite like sort of tightly structured things. All my things tend to end up like only 4 or 5 minutes, whereas Davy's stuff always tends to end up quite a bit longer. So we kind of
I think you've got the longest songs, Davy. Like
trying to rein each other in. You know, Davy likes to add loads of extra flourishes, and I like to keep it quite short and sweet. So, but it's a good mix because Davy adds all the flourishes, but I kind of keep the structure, or kind of keep the structure a little bit.
I'll probably say I'm the middleman. Like I literally am just the middleman between these two guys, the two extremities.
Yeah.
Extremities, thanks, man.
Extremities, yeah.
So when you started off, you first sort of met, were you completely just a instrumental band, and then you added vocals, or was there always the vocals from the start?
Well, no, because we did National Monument and we did Parliament is Made of Rice Paper, both off the first album, which they're the only 2 tracks with vocals. So we've always done those live. So we've always had half and half, maybe a bit less. I think we're about half and half vocals and instrumental now for the live show, which is good. You know, I want to do more vocals. So.
Well, I'm glad you brought up that tune because that's another one I was going to mention. I love that tune. You know, Parliament is Made of Rice Paper. I mean, who came up with the name of that song? That's a fantastic name for a song. I mean,
that'll be the song. That'll be the songwriter, Graham. I will happily say that I did have quite a lot to do with the making of that song, so I do know quite a bit about that one.
And is that meant to be? I mean, obviously with the line, you know, fight for life, fight for real life. I mean, is it? What's your sort of? I mean, obviously every message is individual by the person who listens to it. But is there any particular message you were trying to get across, or anything you're trying to sort of illuminate in that sort of song?
Yeah, well, actually, the lyric is it's the lyric is "fuck the lie, fight for your real life." So it's like. It's fuck the lie. Yeah, fuck the lie, fight for your real life. That's the lyric. But the radio edit was fight the lie, wasn't it? Fight the lie, fight for your real life, or something.
Yeah, we did some really annoying editing to get the swear word out of there. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember actually Greg sitting editing the because you had to do. We had to do the radio edit a bit later, didn't we? And you were editing the radio edit, and you were sitting there doing the same fucking thing for like literally like 53 times. The word "fuck" is in that song basically. So, so yeah, Greg had to go through it 53 times and copy and paste and change and stuff. Pretty. That's the sort of flourishing part, though. You know, that's where like Greg kind of flourishes for like fucking programming and like just sticking at it, man, because he's like amazing at that sort of stuff. Me and Connor are a bit like, oh, let's just go and play guitar somewhere, you know.
But in terms of the lyric, yeah, it was very much also in theme with the title, which is Borders Breakdown, sort of breaking down rules and ignoring rules, and your real life is what matters. So it's like the lie being like laws and unnecessary regulations and things like that. So that's kind of the meaning behind fuck the lie, fight for your real life.
Well, which is you know, I mean, I think I think it's an important issue that needs to be, you know, always expounded, because, you know, I mean, as we know, we're living in a world where we're getting more and more regulated and more controlled, more, you know, I talk about it every week on this podcast. It's almost like every week there's another new law coming out, and then when that law comes out, they're never repealed, are they? You know, I mean, our parliament, as you said, is full of laws that go back. I mean, I got a friend who's a lawyer, and he says you wouldn't believe how many laws are still actually in function that they've never been taken off the, you know. So it's like you said, it's a real. I get frustrated a lot really when I sort of think a lot of bands don't even not I want political bans, but you just sort of like to ignore a really part of our existence on this planet and not even sort of like touch on that as a subject. I think I think a lot of bands do disservice to their audience really, because I think there's a real generation of well, I think all of us we're going through a wake up moment in our lives in history. We're at that point in history. You know, we're having this conversation. This would never be able to do 10 years ago, would we? You know, this is what it is. It's, you know, and it's a you know, we live, like I said before, we live in great days because, you know, we can do this sort of stuff, and, you know, hopefully we can evolve from this world of regulated and you know what I mean. I mean, it's just gone too much, man. I mean, are you ever? I mean, on that very thing, you were just sort of alluding then. You know, the lie, fight for lie, or, you know, fuck the lie. I mean, do you ever get anybody ever telling you, or do you ever sort of self-censor yourself and think, oh, we won't put this line in and won't put that line in, or is that something that never sort of bothers you at all?
There's a few.
It's a good question.
There's a load of stuff that I've always, in terms of censorship, I've always thought like never really censor myself. But then, like, in terms of like lyrics that I've written, like a lot of them are really dark in nature. Like, you know, I don't think that they would be something that would be like, sometimes I don't think I'm writing a very pleasant thing, but then that doesn't bother me. But then I tend to see like it as provocative in a different way, you know. So like, I mean, it's in terms of swearing and stuff. Like, I mean, out and out, like, you know, bad language or whatever. Like, it's not something like I would censor the word fuck if I thought that the song would, you know, if it was going to be something that I would put on the radio sort of thing. But like, definitely, like, I wouldn't censor a sentiment, put it that way. I would censor like a fucking bad word, but I wouldn't censor a sentiment. Like, just, I wouldn't be scared of writing about something. But, you know,
I disagree with the whole concept of, you know, I mean, what's wrong with 4 letters placed together? Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's kind of a case of following the rules in terms of, you know, you want to get radio airplay, maybe a bit of self-censorship could be required. Do you know what I mean? Things like that. And I don't intrinsically object to that. I kind of object to the fact that you've got to censor yourself in the first place, but I accept certain organisations, you know. So we bear that in mind. Certainly not for an LP. We maybe, if we're going to release an LP, we maybe think that we've got one song that's, you know, definitely playable on daytime radio if possible, you know. But I would imagine that, you know, there probably will be some adult content on the LP, knowing, you know.
I think the whole, like you said there, the whole thing about certain words and stuff like that is, I mean, you can go to the other extreme where you have bands that are just, you know, effing and blinding with every other song, and it loses the power. You know, I mean,
yeah, definitely.
The power of any word is just how less you use it, not all the time. I mean, I remember when back in the day when I was at uni, and I was on a sort of like a creative writing course, and they made us one time just sit there and record ourselves for 2 minutes and then go back and have to write word for word what we write. And it's amazing when you listen back to yourself, you realise how many words you repeat, like fucks, keeps coming up, like the certain words, and you think, no, I have to get that out of my mind, because this, like I said, they become words that they dilute the power of the word. If you're saying fuck, it dilutes the power.
Yeah.
The power of that word is a very strong word, but, you know, like I say, it's all about self-dilution. I mean, kind of like sort of carrying on from that sort of stuff. I mean, how often do you get to practice? Do you get to practice often, a lot? I mean, or is it just something you just sort of like put your own stuff together, and like you mentioned earlier on, you add and sort of send it to your stuff, or do you actually get to practice and rehearse a lot live?
Never as often as we'd like, but we actually practice quite a bit. Yeah, we've had quite a few with. Yeah, I don't know if exactly reputation, but we were joking about it the other day. We have had a few unlucky technical hitches over the years, and because we use, you know, laptops and samplers and things like that, you know, you can press the wrong button or a bit of kit malfunctions and it all goes wrong. So we definitely like to be quite prepared. I think we've always been pretty good at that. We've got to be pretty tight, because if you get it wrong with an electronic act, like playing along with electronic beats, for example, it sounds bloody awful, you know. So, but we'd always like to be able to practice more. So.
Yeah, I mean, when you're sort of playing live and that, do you think it's a different feel to when you're just making a tune? I mean, I don't know, because I ask this because I've only experienced really more like just two guitars, a bass and a drummer, and we used to rehearse a lot and stuff like that. So the idea of, like you say, I've never really had any comprehension of like sampling and sending it on and all this electronic world. So do you find that songs change when you're rehearsing them as compared to just like an idea building on an idea? I mean, have songs developed while you've just been playing them live, amongst yourselves?
Absolutely, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Definitely,
that's starting to happen now, isn't it? Basically, because we're starting to work on things together now.
Yeah, well, actually, no, we do that anyway, because like when, as I was saying before, like when we did like when we started doing like the Eternal Now and stuff live, like half of these guitar lines are changed now for live, and they changed in the course of practice. So yeah, we definitely kind of do jam things out. Essentially, even though it's quite a rigid structure, it's still, me and Connor are still really expressive with the guitars and stuff, and always kind of have been. So the songs do kind of take a life of their own and stuff. Yeah, like we do kind of jam them out, and then they end up changing mid-practice and whatnot. But not like in a huge, massive structural way, just in a sort of like, well, that sounds like a really nice lick, like put that in sort of way. Like we have done that quite a bit before, to be honest.
And like to people who are unaware, I mean, at the moment you're preparing, you're sort of making a new EP and stuff like that. So please, I mean, expound on how that's gone, what you're doing, how many tracks are going to be on it. Expand as much as you want.
Well, we're actually working on a new album now. We've just been getting kind of collating some stuff together, and we've got quite a lot of tracks to choose from. Well into like, I can't even remember how many we've got. Like nearly 30 or something we've got shortlisted. So we're just kind of messing about, and like some kind of combining ideas and jamming more and stuff like that. So
some brand new stuff together. Do you know what I mean? Because every time we've jammed, we've come up with good ideas, but we hardly ever record it. We're always messing around, and then we start practicing. So this time around, we definitely want to try and record 2 or 3 things from scratch rather than starting with each other's ideas. I think it's make us more of a band as well.
Yeah.
We're actually doing a single, so it's not going to be an EP. It's going to be a single, maybe 2 even before the LP. And basically, that's pretty much finished, isn't it, from the sessions yesterday? I think we've got a couple more tweaks to make. We're really pleased. I think it's the best thing we've done yet. So, and again, it's hopefully a slightly different sound again, maybe. So it's got vocals on it as well. It's a proper song with verse and chorus and everything. So,
so just sort of expanding on that, you mentioned in that process you've got 30 sort of songs, and you've got to narrow them maybe down to 12 on an album. I mean, how does that work?
Yeah.
I mean, is that just all you locked in a room having a big argument over a few beers and that's it all done, or is that? I mean, how does that process work?
Well, we've never done it before, so we're finding out as we.
Well, to be fair, it gets like, we kind of we shortlisted songs for the EP as well, and we did like, we kind of bouncing about like songs and stuff, and like we kind of decide. We can all sort of like continuously listen to each other's stuff and then just decide what. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of a process of elimination. Normally, we're fairly diplomatic. Like, we don't with each other. I mean, we don't like shout and scream. We'll certainly be happy to lock ourselves in a room with fucking loads of beer and whatever else, like, to get it done. But yeah, it won't be any aggro or nothing. Like, we're all about the love, so it'll be good fun.
I think it's also a case that quite a few of them are half tracks rather than completed tracks. So it's going to be working through. Each of us take each other's tracks, work on some bits, see what works, and I think it'll maybe start to become clear then which ones we're going to go with and which ones we might. Do you know what I mean? Which things are going to work. So I reckon it'll just evolve into an album over time. And we're pretty democratic about it. So I think we're all clear that we definitely want a lot of different styles, exactly like the first album. We want it slow, fast, short, long, epic, a bit weird, a couple of, that kind of stuff, a real variety of tracks, exactly like the first LP. We definitely
go with. I think we're going to go with I want quite a lot of shoegazing being done as well in the new album. I like a lot of space and a lot of like guitar-y stuff and a lot of textures and everything. So like, yeah, we're all like really excited about it. We've just basically been sitting about for like the past, I think it's been the past kind of 2 sessions we've had. We've been sitting about like kind of just talking about it and getting really into it and sort of, you know, working out what we're going to do and everything. So we're all getting excited about it, which is good.
I mean, you know, I mean, obviously, you're obviously based right now in Glasgow. I mean, what's the sort of scene in Scotland like at the moment? Is it quite hard for you to get gigs, or are you finding it's easy to get gigs? I mean, because you know, from an outside perspective, what's it like at the moment in Scotland? You know, as trying to be in a band.
It's all right. I mean, it's always just the same sort of it's the same sort of script, really. I mean, like I don't know, Connor, were you going to say something there, man?
No, I think I just glitched out, actually.
Did you? Your face is showing up when you're sitting there, like, and I was like, shit, I just interrupted you. Greg?
I would say that it's easy to get gigs in Glasgow, certainly, because there's a lot of venues. It's almost a victim of its own success in a way, though, because there's actually so much going on in this city. Like live stuff, there's a lot of small bands, a lot of bigger bands. But the electronic side as well, the club scene's huge in Glasgow, yeah. So definitely punches above its weight in terms of music scene.
Definitely one that loves techno.
Yeah,
specifically techno, like.
Yeah.
But it means there's quite a lot on, so it actually means it's quite, you know, it's quite a hotbed for music. But it actually means it's also harder to get noticed in a way because there's so much going on.
It's quite difficult to get your pals to even come to gigs just for the fact that there is so much going on, there is so much music in Glasgow that, like, yeah, someone will come to this or come to that, and they're already going to something else. Like, so it's kind of hard to, like, convince people to, like, actually, like, go to a gig because they're always wanting to do something else because there is so much going on.
Yeah, you can find a lot of people can overplay Glasgow as well. Sometimes, you know, it's quite easy to overplay, like, and it's nobody's fault. It's just, you know, it's just the way that the gig circuit is. Like, you can quite, you know, if you used to see quite a lot of bands playing in several different venues, basically for in a constant rotation. Quite a lot in Glasgow, you tend to see that happening. So, you know, more people, if anything, more. I think people need to get out of Glasgow more, to be honest. And I think people need to sort of, like, if you're a band in that, I think Glasgow should be the least of your sort of, like, should be doing the circuit and then, like, moving further afield as well. Not rubbish. I mean, if it's brilliant, it's amazing, obviously, but it can get overcooked and overcrowded at times. Like, if you're just a band in a sea of bands, you know.
You realise he's basically talking about us there, so because that's, I mean, we can talk really because we've basically played in London a couple of times and then around Scotland, so we're actually in the process of sorting out a England tour for the middle of the year, basically May into June. Hopefully, it's kind of getting planned as we speak. So
yeah,
so we're going to do north of England sort of first week and then sort of south of England the second week. So we're going to do Leeds, Manchester, hopefully anyway, Leeds, Manchester, Liverpool, places like that.
Well,
and then in the south,
go on.
Bristol, Brighton, Birmingham, and maybe a hometown gig for me for Nottingham as well. So.
Oh, okay, fantastic, man. I mean, one of the things I love particularly about Glasgow, like I say, I'm from Leeds, and I'm originally, as you can tell, from London. But one of the things I love particularly about Glasgow, and it's very similar to Leeds in that, is that it's a big city, but the actual population doesn't feel like a London. You don't feel lost in it. You know, you can kind of. What I love about Glasgow, for, you know, especially someone like Ryan, who's obviously never been to Glasgow, but it's a very kind of almost like a village. I don't know. Do you think I'm being out?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's even the city centre. It's kind of like, I know it's got the underground system and stuff, but it's all very there, and, you know, like you say, there's a lot going on. But I mean,
it's dense. I think it's dense. Like, there's so much going on in such a small area. Like,
well, it's one of the things. What I'm sort of saying is, for people, when I'd never really been to Glasgow, you know, before, sort of, you know, moving up to this part of the world, and it wasn't until I moved up there, it was like, you sort of realised how back in the day Glasgow was basically the centre of the world, wasn't it? And as you were saying pre-podcast, a lot of that old, you know, stuff that was built up, I mean, you know, all the old shipyards and stuff like that had just been neglected and stuff like that. But you still see these echoes. I mean, as I told you before, if you just travel from Glasgow to Greenock, you'll still see all the old ship cranes and stuff like this. And you just realise that Glasgow's always had this thing about it. Do you know what I mean? And but for all the size and all the thing of it, it's not a London. That's what I'm trying to make out. It's a very, I don't know. Do you mean I'm sure? Like you just mentioned then, you said there's a lot of bands and stuff like that. Is it quite sort of like tight knit scene between all the bands, or is it very much dog eat dog, slit throat sort of thing?
No, I think
most people are kind of pals, aren't they? There's a few just kind of different scenes and things like that as well.
Yeah, I mean, nobody really. There's no feuds or anything. I don't think. I mean, you don't really. I don't really. I mean, there's a lot of cliquiness. There can be like. I mean, not. But that's not specifically in Glasgow. That's like, everywhere, anywhere, you know.
It's probably not dog eat dog like say London or New York might be. I would imagine, though I don't really know, what it's like to be part of those scenes. But I'd imagine it's a lot more competitive.
I think dog eat dog's a bit of a myth, man. I think that's a bit of a myth these days. Like, I think that. I don't think that it's a competition. I think that people genuinely try to scratch the backs of other people they like. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we've got a lot of fucking friends, in other bands that, like Vasa, for example, John and all of that. Their music's brilliant in that, and so because we like them, even though they're an instrumental sort of post-rocky sort of quite interesting band, it's not somebody that we would view as like, we wouldn't be like, oh, well, we don't want them, because we wouldn't see them as some like sort of rival. They're like, we'd want them to fucking break out and get more of a fan base and stuff. And
so we have talked about setting up fake beefs between bands, for promotional purposes.
just for fun, just for a laugh.
West Side, South Side feud, like that, yeah.
Yeah, we start on this podcast between you and the Ceiling Demons.
Yeah. Let's go.
Those fucking Ceiling Demons. Ceiling Demons, more like dealing semen. Yeah. Shots fired.
It's like a wrestling interview. Oh my god.
Can we just put in a disclaimer straight after that statement?
No disclaimer. Well, actually, yeah, we love Ceiling Demons. Ceiling Demons, we love you. But if you want a fake feud for marketing purposes, then we're all for that. So.
Just get it.
Dealing semen, that's fucking great.
Okay,
anyway.
But no, you're absolutely right, because I said to you pre-podcast, I mean that very sentiment you were just speaking about then is very true, because not only have I seen you a lot of bands just generally, but particularly with, I mean, that's what I'm saying, my kind of contact with you was from, again, the Ceiling Demons, man. They, as I said before, for podcast, they've been talking about you for absolutely ages, and been telling me to reach out to you, and there is a lot of that, because it's I think it's one of the, like you just said then, there is a bit of a myth about this old dog eat dog stuff, whereas in reality I don't find that anywhere. I find a lot of bands all helping each other out. They all want to help support each other, and because I think you get
on better by being nice, anyway,
well,
be nice, and people are more likely to deal with you. So.
Well, in the essence, I mean, like I say, we're all in the creative industries here. We've got Ryan in the film, I do art, and you do music and stuff like that. But it's kind of like, I get inspired. I've told you this, and I've probably, said you on Twitter and stuff. I get inspired by other great. I mean, I hear your tunes and stuff. I get inspired by it. I don't think, well, bitterness and jealousy. I'm like, that's great. That inspires me. And then
you've made a couple of pictures for us, in fact, haven't you? Was it two?
Yeah, exactly, man. As I told you, I love to be creative, and I love to listen to stuff like that. And it's not like it's like, oh, I've got a, for instance, that tune's better than the song I've heard from the Ceiling Demons. I don't care. I love it. I think the whole thing about creativity, from generally, if you're going to talk about creativity, is it's all meant to inspire each other. Art inspires music, music inspires art, all creation inspires creation, and we're all just trying to, as you were mentioning earlier on, Connor, we're all just trying to build and build and build, and just make ourselves that little bit better, and make that the final product what we can. And then when you hear something, I remember when I've talked to the lads in the Demons about it before. They've heard tunes, and it's like, that's a new benchmark we've got to raise then. And then they go out and try to raise that benchmark. And I think it's like I said, it's a myth. There's a myth of this dog eat dog stuff that isn't really reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely, definitely.
Ryan, if you've got anything to chip in, mate, because you've been very quiet. I know you've had problems with your Google, but go on.
I kept getting booted. Google kept kicking me out, and then it was redirecting me, and then I had to restart the computer, and fucking.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, I was going to say I saw a couple of people there.
There you go.
He's back.
Does that show up on the video actually?
No. The only place that shows up is in the NSA, man.
They're writing it down that we hate Google.
I don't even know how the fuck you do this.
Go to your chat box.
Yeah, at the side, I think there's a chat box at the side.
Oh, the left-hand side.
Right. Ah, here we go. Oh, fucking hell, yeah. Technology,
We're just gonna chat from now on, so we can- as far as the dog eat dog, I mean, over here, I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do, and I guess as an artist, who you're trying to be, and if you are trying to be an artist, I think you don't really have that problem, but you run into the people who necessarily really aren't trying to be artists and are really just, they want the fame, they want the notoriety.
Yeah.
So they will kind of. Their ego plays into it a lot, so like a lot of rappers over here will try to build up like an entourage of other rappers behind them. So then it's like, the whole crew, but then, the one main guy is the front. There's a lot of front runners over here. Bands always have one guy in the front. And, his hair's flowing in the wind.
Hype man. Those guys are hype guys, aren't they?
How much of that is real though? Like, I really think that a lot of these guys like take on sort of characters and like almost like it seems too serious to even be real. Like, it just seems funny in some way. Like,
well, the whole thing the thing I always said like about especially about hip hop, and if you want to think about like Dr. Dre, that kind of thing, right? Like, it's when you think about like how fucking misogynistic and stuff it is. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like it's to the point of fucking pantomime. Like, so, like, but then
exactly,
I always thought when I listened to that sort of shit, it was like it was just so ridiculous that it was satirical. It's just like, I mean, there's just no way that.
I mean, I guess
it's like, to me, it's like the same as taking it as gospel. Like people running about shooting people and fucking having sex with like 80 million different like supermodels every night and stuff. And like,
it's probably good that you take it that way than any other way. To be honest, like otherwise you'd probably be quite a strange person.
Yeah, I know, but then that's the whole the PMRC angle and all of that, when they all came in with the old parental advisory stickers, like people take that shit seriously. So we've got to stop Dr. Dre talking about like sipping gin and juice or whatever. No wait, it wasn't Dr. Dre, that was Snoop Dogg, wasn't it? Yeah. Sorry.
People over here we find conspiracies in everything. So
we do, yeah.
And when it comes to like bands or songs or whatever, you can find some of like just the like artistically some of like the poorliest produced things in the world, and they'll be about just really grotesque subjects and stuff like that. But I mean, if you see them on YouTube, you will find people defending it.
Yeah,
and
horror,
like oh, this is real.
New York.
Well, there's a lot of things.
About, like killing prostitutes and horrible stuff like that.
Oh yeah, and there's been a lot of videos lately that are just, I mean, very, very pro cocaine, and people just like throwing around keys of fake cocaine, like throwing it around, and I guess I don't want to even bring it up, but and people just being like, oh, this guy's real, like this is for real, this is the real shit, and it's like, it's really hard to believe that if they're really doing it, they're actually going on record and saying, I do this.
I know. It's fucking ridiculous. I mean, this is obviously the huge flaw in it. Like, it's when people go on about like all these rappers and stuff, like having like getting on a gun rap and all of that stuff. Well, how the fuck did they manage to come to the Glasgow Barrowlands to play fucking Hive for me then? Do you know what I mean? They just like go up to customs and go, by the way, yeah, I know I'm that famous rapper guy, but like I've shot like 15 people. I mean, you might have heard this song. But they're just like, yeah, mate, go on you go on through. Of course not. There's no way that he's not actually a fucking murderer. At least that's what I tell myself when I'm like crying.
Even B.I.G., much as I love him, couldn't have done all of those things in Red Sky.
No,
I mean.
Yeah.
He'd be public enemy #1 if he did.
Yeah.
Some of the things he says in songs are insane. Like, really.
Yeah, he's like what's that one? He's like going on about like killing pregnant women and all of this shit. He's just like, he's like, I don't give a fuck if you're pregnant and all this stuff, and it's like, it's I mean, in many ways you can really you couldn't really get away with that in such a mainstream way as you could, like, when it was at its kind of, because arguably it's had its heyday, that sort of rhetoric in hip hop. Arguably it's not like that anymore, but you could say like Odd Future, Wolfgang, Kill Them All and all of that, like Earl Sweatshirt and stuff. They're like still kind of, I suppose they were still flying the flag a couple of years ago for like really ridiculously.
No, that's cool, is it? I suppose. Like
ridiculous. But I think the days of Gravediggers and stuff, I think all of that stuff's kind of past. It's had its heyday, I think people are trying. I think that although it sounds a bit dumber, people are trying to get a wee bit smarter with rap.
Yeah, try to be a bit more cerebral, like.
Yeah, that's exactly the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the other things as well about, particularly what we were just talking about then, is it's like I've often thought this. It's like if you need, that's one of the great things, particularly about someone like Glasgow, like Leeds, and I was mentioning before. They keep you grounded. You're not going to be able to go to a gig in Glasgow and give it all, yo, bitch. They're just going to go, what, as you know. I mean, particularly in Glasgow, man. There's no short thrift. I mean, that's one thing about particularly Glaswegians. They will knock you straight back down if you're like, who do you think you are? Do you know what I mean? And I think I think it's really healthy. I mean. You know what I mean?
There was there was just what you were talking about. There was a rap battle I think it was maybe a year ago or something. Or it was somebody came over from America. I think it was R.E. the Rugged Man or something. Yeah. Came over from America, and he started all his a bit of bullshit and whatnot, just like being a bit like diva-esque. And the crowd, just for all the fans that had come to see him, just turned on him and were just like, "You fucking asshole, get to fuck," sort of thing. They basically like get out the venue sort of thing, and he kind of left going like, "Fuck Glasgow, man," and all of that stuff, And, but like, yeah, it was a really proud moment. There was loads of photos on Facebook of like a lot of people in the Scottish hip hop scene were like, "Check this out, this guy just got fucking shouted at,"
Well, then
I know that's funny because I know a lot of people that listen to R.E. the Rugged Man.
Yeah, really. Yeah, no, there's like, I'll find the photo, man. I'll try and find the photo of it. It's pretty funny.
But no, I find that I would be in that same. I know a lot of people I know wouldn't be in that crowd, but I definitely would have been in that crowd. Like, no, sorry, like, because like you said, like hip hop should be. It's been around long enough. It never died. It should be to a point where it's getting smart. I mean, I think it is getting smarter, but I think, there's so much available, with YouTube and traveling and the internet and blogging and stuff like that, that we see so much more hip-hop than we're used to compared to, like, 7-10 years ago. But so we do see a lot more of, like, the, I don't
Crap.
know.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's crap. Like R.A. had one song, I forget what it was called. I think it was called like Evolution of a Flow or Evolution of a Rap Style or something like that.
Evolution of
I should actually say I don't know his stuff, so.
like the way he rapped it and the way he sort of, he did kind of, do his own flow, like creatively did whatever, and it was like, creatively, like that was really, really cool. That was really awesome. And then like you said, sometimes you just get those things that are just like just kind of like dirty jokes and lots of swearing and it's like, okay, that's all right, cool, like.
Yeah.
I mean, a perfect sort of example of that whole we're talking about was a famous one. I don't know if you're aware of this, Ryan. Was the one when the terrorists tried to do that? Do you remember in Glasgow airport? And they just ran him out, didn't they?
Yeah, they just said John.
That's a perfect example of what I'm trying to talk about. That kind of like grounding sort of thing,
He said he was like he fucking what was it again?
He set himself
he said
on fire.
in the interview he was like, we don't take that kind of shit in Glasgow. It's like, you know, I think so, there was a myth going around. I don't know if this actually happened, but I heard that like the fucking Holiday Inn or something next to the airport that he worked at, like people had started up a sort of like a way to pay them like the amount for a pint for him. Just like, you know, because it's like right next to the airport. Fucking hell, sorry. It's right next to the airport, and they actually put down money. These people phoned in and put down money for a pint. So apparently, he ended up getting like basically 500 pints of lager on tap at this pub next to it, because people were just so enamored with the fact that this dude basically punched a terrorist in the face. You know. Only in Glasgow, mate. Only in Glasgow.
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
I mean, what? This is to all three of you, really. I mean, this is sort of general. What's the best and the worst thing about being in the band?
Worst thing? There is no worst thing, really. The worst thing is probably moving shit. Moving stuff.
Looking shit about.
Being a bit too committed to it means that you don't really have much in the way of disposable income at times, which is also a fucking struggle, because, you know, you don't really make much. Well, me particularly, I'm quite. I can get quite skint at times. It kind of sucks, but that's literally the only thing. But you know, you just gotta deal with that, because it's all about the love, man. It's all about doing it, you know.
Well,
but it's yeah.
The best thing for me is definitely completing a song. You know, knowing it's finished and knowing you did a good job. Some people prefer live. I do enjoy playing live, but definitely for me, completing songs. Completing songs in the studio is the most enjoyable bit for me, I think.
Yeah, I enjoy playing live. I think the most. I really enjoy playing the songs live, because I like hearing how they work live and stuff like that. You know, I think live is probably my favourite thing. So yeah.
And Connor?
I definitely prefer the studio. I've always been a sort of studio guy, even though I really enjoy playing live. But just having a song done and knowing you've done that, like it's finished. It's like letting go your child into like knowing they're adult. Like you go, right, that's it done. I don't have to do anything more. It's free. Like that sort of feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one that you mentioned then, Davey, about the worst side of being in a band it's the worst side about being anyone creative in this world right now. Yeah, we all struggle, and that's exactly the reason. And I've told you on Twitter, one of the great things is there's a, you know, as I said before, again, it's a Scot who's going to release that stuff. I mean, I've told you before about, you know, the Maysay stuff and like that, and anything to make us people who are creative. And I think this is the era that's rising where people like us have for so long have struggled, and any means of making us, like I say, giving us resources for what we do, because that's all we ask for. None of us want to be millionaires and bling bling, but what we want to do is just get some payment for what we do, because as you know, we're all the same here. We're all in the creative, but we produce, we make loads of stuff, and yeah, I'm the same as you. I don't get much resources for what I do, but I work harder than, I tell you what, I've worked in a 9-to-5 job, and I work harder at doing this than I know maybe 90% of people in their 9-to-5 jobs do. But what do we get for it? You know, like you say, when you mentioned earlier on, you're going to be touring down in England. Do you know what I mean? That's going to be a struggle for you, isn't it? I mean, how does that work? I mean, you got to take your own transport and stuff like that. Is that all on your own backs?
We're working with someone to help us out with sort of travelling side of it. But I mean, we've already discussed issues job-wise. For me, I'm a college lecturer, so yes. I need to do some work in terms of sorting that out, you know. So it's going to be a kind of slightly broken up tour, but we have already discussed, you know, what we do when we get an opportunity and it maybe gets in the way of jobs and colleges at uni. So, you know, same thing, you know. If it hasn't happened yet, but, you know, suddenly get offered a great gig in America or something like that, and it's right in the middle of uni or right in the middle of my work or whatever, you know. So. And to be honest, we don't know the answer
yet. Okay, fair enough.
It hasn't come up, so you know, I'm sure it's sortable basically. But you know, these are issues you got to worry about.
Make that decision, Greg.
What's that?
When it does come, we'll have to make the decision.
Yeah, well, it's a good problem to have, isn't it? So, you know.
Well, it would be.
It would be.
I don't actually do anything apart from this. I do a bit of tarot reading on the side and stuff, but just an interesting fact. But no, this is my only means of anything, and it's quite it can get quite dark at times. But yeah, man, one day we'll look back on this and probably laugh if there's a heaven and we're dead and we're in it, you know.
Well,
there is a
totally.
heaven, and it's for machines.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. But I think you're absolutely right, because I think there's, I mean, as I told you, Bob, I mean, there's Made Safe, which is a Scottish version, but there's going to be so many versions of this. Basically, technology's coming to give. To level the playing field at the moment. That's what it is. We're not in a level playing field. None of us creative people are. We're at the beholden of gatekeepers and middlemen, and anything that's going to change that. That's exactly the reason we set this podcast up. Let's to fly the flag and say, look, people, technology's coming. I don't want to sell it. Go look it for yourself, because it's coming, and it's going to bring. I honestly think it's going to bring a whole new wave that we're going to look back in 10 years' time and go, oh man, how did you live in a world before this? How did you live in a world where the internet was just like completely centralized? How did you live in a world where you couldn't do these certain things? Because the world is changing, and as we all know, it's changing at an alarming rate. I mean, I was telling Ryan before the midweek this week. I mean, there's a guy in Holland. This is how much the world's changing. I don't know if you caught this one. He's planning to do a head transplant within the year. Transport a human head from one body to another body. It's like, what world are we living in, man? Yeah, what world are we living in? You know,
it's like fucking Deus Ex or something. It's like cybernetic fucking crazy. That's great. It's beautiful.
Last year, the very first actual cyborg hate crime happened when the guy who's got the implant in his eye and it constantly takes pictures and sends it to his brain. He was at McDonald's in America, and someone came up and said, "Take that off, you're scaring my kids." And he was like, "Sorry, this is actually part of my head." And they tried to grab at his face and rip it out. And and so when this happened, people actually were saying this is the first cyborg hate crime, which is just funny, to think that's actually happened in our lifetime. This cyborg hate crime.
Cyborg hate. That is a band name.
It's cyborg hate crime with sounds like it sounds like the sci-fi version of a band that G.G. Allen would be in or something.
Yep.
Android G.G. Allen rolling about the stage in his own oil,
throwing oil at people,
pulling out wires from his neck and stuff.
They'd have to specially build him naked robot body parts.
yeah, fucking toasters and stuff. Anyway,
yeah, he just has upside down toasters and ass.
There we go, machines in heaven and one. Fucking toasters.
Forget other bands, man. You need to be hoping that as a song on your new album, man. That's what that needs to be done. Forget other bands. It's the perfect Machines in Heaven title for a song, isn't it? You know what I mean?
You're actually completely right. You're totally right. You saw it here first. So we've got to do a song called Cyborg Hate Crime.
If nothing else, that's one thing we've achieved through this podcast. If nothing else happens from it, at least we've achieved one thing.
Sorry guys, you mind if I just 1 minute? I'll be back.
No problem, man. So you mentioned earlier on, even just then you mentioned about tarot and stuff like that. I mean, what's your two sort of? I mean, do you think there is actually life on other planets, and do you think we're going to be where we live today when we'll be contacted, or?
I don't know if perhaps we'll live today we've been contacted, because there's all sorts of fucking questions surrounding that, really, because we could have already been contacted, essentially.
For me, I think we won't be contacted because the technology required to actually contact us requires the people who stay out in these faraway galaxies to actually travel faster than the speed of light.
Yeah, but you're counting on them. You're counting on them being people, and not. I mean, our definition of intelligence isn't the universe's definition of intelligence. Like the universe itself could be a hyper intelligence. Like there could be fucking. There could be material that just lives as fucking aliens could be floating gas clouds, or they could be ideas. Aliens could be like just consciousness that's like a tiny little bubble of consciousness floating around.
Like aliens, like actual life forms that were planets that could terraform. Anything's really possible with the sort of material in space. Like we don't know right now, but like it is possible they could just be like gaseous or like be like some weird dark matter or dark energy. Like,
but either way, I mean, it doesn't particularly bode well for us though as a species, because we're restricted to our kind of semantics and definitions of things, and it's our realm of experience. Anything out with our realm of experience is out with our realm of experience. We can't fucking possibly imagine it. Do you know what I mean? Like extraterrestrial life could be so advanced that it wouldn't even show any fucking signs of life.
Well, I've often thought on this very subject. If there are other intelligent life forms, as in whatever, and they know, man, we must be the best TV show in the whole universe, because they must fly to us and think, hey, what are those talking monkeys up to now? Hey, and we're brilliant because look at us as a species, man. All we do is just destroy. We fuck. That's all we do. We are the perfect TV show, man. Do you know what I mean?
Hey, let's shut off one of their nukes and just fly away. That'll be funny.
Yeah. Even if it is like nukes, I mean, they might just fucking imagine us out of existence again just as easily as they imagined us into existence. Who fucking knows, man?
Well, man, it's quite bizarre. I was reading this week, and you were sort of saying about how alien sort of stuffing, and we don't know what their life form would be. And I was reading an article, and this was on the back of NASA, and they've been looking at. I don't know if you're aware, but there's a series of comets coming quite close to Earth at the moment. In fact, next week, if you go out, you can actually sort of see two of them fly past. Yeah, I don't know if you're aware of this, but they're looking. And apparently, there's a whole band of them going out, and at a certain point, I can't remember how many thousands of miles away it was. They've been watching these comets for quite a while now. And this is the thing that blew my mind, and it blew their mind, was they're saying some of these comets are changing course, not as expected. And almost like they're making intelligent decisions about where they're going. And it's freaking NASA out big style, like, what is going on there? These comets are like changing directions in ways that our physics should be possible. And then it started, on the back of the article I was reading, all the comments at the bottom was like, which I suppose it would be. It'd be the perfect weapon for an alien species, just to send a comet to a place and remote control it to where it gets to. But man, that's what I mean. It's just like there's so much about this universe we don't even know. And when I read that, I was like, when you hear NASA scratching their head, like, we don't know what's going on. I'm like, okay, so. Yet more proof of like I think I'm going to live my life to the fullest every moment I've got, because if that's the case, man, do you know what I mean? We might as well live our lives to the full on this, this time we've got on this rock.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Do you know we're landing on Pluto for the first, or rather arriving at Pluto for the first time ever this year?
Well,
yeah,
we're actually going to get around. It's arriving this year.
They were actually approach photos. There was photos of the approach released. Actually, I saw.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's photos of the approach, and it's like obviously it's like fucking. It doesn't look like really anything yet, but it's. I believe it's going to be like June or July.
Yeah,
so they're going to have something be there, so like actually within orbit essentially, but. Yeah,
that's
they keep changing their mind. Again, that's something that you were just saying. They keep changing their mind about even if Pluto's a fucking planet, don't they? And also meteors. They don't really know where they.
Or it's actually not.
No, it's meteors.
It's not a planet.
So it's not. But did they not think that it was, and then they thought that it wasn't, and then they.
No.
They always thought it was, and then they changed their mind.
Yeah, they just changed their mind.
Because it's more like.
It's not actually. Yeah.
It should be a gas giant if it's out there, basically. Yeah, it's not like a planet.
Oh, right.
Well, yeah. I mean, in essence, I don't know how much you're all aware of it. I mean, that whole TV mission to get to Mars, and they already narrowed them down from like whatever it was 1,000, and now got the 100 people they're going to narrow it down to. And
yeah, I can't believe they're even talking about it.
It's unreal.
They're going to die. That's the thing. They have to accept that they're going to die when they go there.
It's a one-way mission, yeah.
Yeah, one-way mission, and you're going to have to grow your own food, and you're going to have to make your own like place to stay, and they're going to have to climatize to the actual like artificial place that they're going to stay, which will take years of development as the people already there.
It takes something like three years to get there. Is that right? So you need to stay alive for 3 years on the ship somehow.
Yeah, it's
not like a big, huge fucking stab in the dark, though. They're not just like sending people out there to die. They're sending people out. They're sending people out there. I mean, because otherwise, why is everybody volunteers just fucking send?
They have to die. It's not like
the technology doesn't exist.
Just go to the House of Lords and tell them there's free champagne in this. There's free champagne in here, guys. There you go, and they fucking send them off to fucking Mars, and you know. That's the way to solve all the problems in this country. It's fucking crap when I send them up to Mars, mate. If that's it, they're not sending them there. They're not sending them there to die, man. They're sending them there. They're not sending them there with fuck all. You know, it's not like they have to somehow survive on a ship for 3 years. They've got fucking supplies.
You know, the first people have to die. It's an actual fact they have to die.
Yeah, of course they have to die. I think it's a fact that everyone has to die. Like,
no, the first people to go to Mars have to die, so they can work on what they're at. It's development, like it's a work in progress.
So like So like the first people that go there can't come back, but then I guess that's like the fuck to pay. Like, have you ever seen that film Interstellar? Have you ever seen that? You know, the one that everybody was.
I actually haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet.
I've never seen it. No.
Yeah, no, I caught it like, and it was all right, man. I kind of enjoyed it, but like there was a thing that stuck with me in that was like the guy was like, you have to think beyond your own timeline. You have to think about beyond your own family's timeline, like, you know, because he's talking about how empathy very rarely spreads beyond your immediate sort of circle of people, you know, like your family or your friends or whatever, or yourself, obviously, but then it's not empathy, but yeah, so it never really extends beyond your family, and the whole point in like the idea of like getting out into space and all of that stuff is that before we have shit like, even when we have shit like cryogenic, like, you know, hibernation and stuff, like, so traveling light years and, you know, not aging and whatnot, like, even when we have that, like, it'll still be an idea of, like, we have to take into account, like, we have to completely accept infinity, essentially, and that's the fucking hardest thing for any human to do, man, is to accept infinity as a concept, like, and that includes the being fucking, like, it's completely beyond your time scale, you know?
Would you do it though? If you say we developed a spaceship that was fast enough to get to the nearest star, Alpha Centauri or whatever, in a relatively quick time, you could get put to sleep, etc., but you were never coming back, would you? I think I'd be struggling to say no. Do you know what I mean?
I would be struggling to say no.
Being the first person to ever see that. Do you know what I mean? I mean, obviously that's never going to happen. There's no way I'm astronaut material, but you know.
Well, have you ever heard of overview syndrome that astronauts get from seeing Earth from like far away, and seeing it as the one thing they actually get like depressed from it because it makes human life seem so small and unimportant. So they have to adjust when they come back, just sort of like prisoners coming out.
I find it nihilistic, really. I find it liberating. You know, a lot of people find it quite like, oh, well, you know, we should you know, everybody's unique and special, and I do believe that, but I believe it in more of a kind of internal way. You know, I'm more I kind of like subscribe to the idea of there being sort of, you know, more internal wisdom, non-materialistic wisdom, stuff that doesn't really, you know, stuff that doesn't require shit like glory and stuff. You know, I think to be comfortable without, you know, to be comfortable with not leaving a legacy is probably the most fundamental. You know, one of the pinnacles of happiness, true happiness, is being comfortable with not feeling the need to be glorious,
leave a mark,
like leave a mark, or fucking, you know, like, or like, you know, go and see something just because you want to be the first person that sees it or something, you know. Like, I feel like that idea is, you know, if you can lose that, then I guess that's the fucking pinnacle of happiness, you know. I guess then you could die happy. I find it liberating though.
But I suppose
even once they get there, like, well, the whole space thing, like 3 years on the spaceship, like, you know, if you're not an astronaut, you're you know, for the first, you know, maybe day or like week or, you know, however starstruck you are going to be like, wow, this is really cool. Then, you know, 2.5 years down the line, you're just gonna be like, son of a bitch, like, God damn it. You know? And then you go and you know, you get that excitement again. I'm like, oh my God, new world, new world. And then, you know, 2 weeks later, a month later, when the glory wears off, you're just like, well, here I am on Mars all alone.
God, this place is shit.
Like like, I can't even tell you how much I just think of just smashing my helmet when I'm out there on my rover. It just
can't get any Wi-Fi signal. Fucking hell.
I mean, I thought it was just quite interesting what you just saying then, Dave, because it's as much as I would probably edge with exactly what you're saying. I think one of the pinnacles of life or anything is to, like you say, not leave as light as footprint as you can. But the duality to that, it's the human species that's made us this sense of competition and always striving and exploring, that's got us to where we are, and we're going to need that because at some point we're going to have to leave this planet. Because at some point the asteroids, you know, maybe it's not these ones, but at some, which we know, look at the Earth's history, it's been pounded by asteroids. We've got super volcanoes, we've got earthquakes. Man, we're going to have to leave this planet at some point.
It's going to happen again, for sure.
And it's that duality, like you're saying, because it's like the pinnacle of what we call happiness is to basically be as almost ethereal, like you were saying. But on the duality that we need to get out of this planet and explore space, because, man, the world's going to change very, you know, and it will do because we live on a dynamic rock, don't we? Really, you know.
Well, is anybody surprised that we don't have some sort of colony on the moon by now? Like, it's like we just kind of gave up on the moon. Like, it's there.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I don't know if, like, I mean, you can jump into loads of conspiracy theories there, like fucking Nazi moon bases and stuff.
Oh, I know all about that, but yeah, it's just, it just seems strange to me that, you know, we you know, made contact with the moon, you know, how many odd years ago, and like now we don't even do it anymore. And
I saw a BBC documentary recently. I think it was a Brian Cox thing, and he was interviewing. One of them was about human exploration and past and future, possibly. And he was talking to people involved in the moon landings and all that. And one of the guys, I can't remember who it was, one of the engineers, he was saying we had an unlimited budget and half a million people. That's what we had to work with, and that's what got America to the moon the first. What got NASA to the moon the first 4 times, or whatever it was they did. From 69 onwards, unlimited budget and 500,000 people, and it's like, who's going to do that now? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I suppose a country can't keep on throwing those resources because that's what they needed, you know, to build those rockets together.
Every year, like NASA keep getting cut every year because it's kind of hard to make people believe in that sort of thing. Like, if you know what I mean, like to have like a public narrative that they can use, and also at that time they could, like, so they can put as much money as they wanted into it at that time.
Yeah,
like,
I'll be back in 2 seconds, guys.
No, I mean, I think it's really, like you just said then, I think it's kind of like a real indictment of our age that like you say, the NASA, if you're going to have a government and the budgets, if we're going to spend budgets, they've cut, like you said, they've cut the NASA budget, but the prison complex has gone up, and the military industrial complex has gone up, and all the other things have gone up. But like you say, the one thing that we need to do is basically keep exploring. Like you say, they just drive it into the ground. I mean, it's a sad indictment of our times, really, isn't it? You know what I mean?
And the fact remains, every dollar spent in NASA has been shown to have repercussions on the normal society, because as you develop technologies, that's to develop stuff that helps us. There's absolutely shed loads of inventions that are useful to the human race that have been developed as a result of Kevlar, as a result of research into space exploration. So people think it's a waste of money, but it's not anyway. It's not anyway, but it's even more useful than people think it is. You know?
Well, I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, I don't know if you're aware, but the reason the shuttle was taken and it had its life for what it was. So the beginnings of the shuttle was basically, it was in the 60s, and they were trying to get satellites up to spy on what was going on in Russia. So they built that's the reason it's got wings, so it could actually land instead of wasting money. So you know, but that's why it's got such a big payload to it, because it was actually just built with all that, like you said, all that money and all the people just to put some spy satellites to see what was going on in Russia. But like you say, the consequence of that was we had the shuttle missions for years on end. It's like you say, there's some weird dichotomies in this world, isn't there? Really, you know what I mean?
Yep.
We could all, you never know.
Well, I was gonna say there's actually footage of one. It was in some supposed UFO footage of basically I think it was this guy in Canada worked at a what was it? He worked at like a public access channel, and they had so many satellites that they weren't using. At one point, he asked his boss if he could use one and do whatever with it, and basically they told him yeah, and so he goes out and starts pointing it around, and he found like the NASA satellite. And he was like, anybody thinks NASA, satellite, you're gonna think encryption, you're gonna think all sorts of security. He's like, no, it wasn't even like that. He's like, I just pointed the satellite at it, and there I was getting live feed of, anytime they send spacecraft out there. And they had one, and he just basically collected all of this stuff, and then anytime there was like weird UFO sightings or anything like that, he made this compilation tape, a little mixtape of UFO footage. But there was one where they had this, it was like a tow rig that was tied to the back of like the spaceship, and then it had like
tether footage, yeah,
the tether footage, and it was just like, that alone, like how much did that thing cost? And there it goes, like bink, like it just breaks the tether and just like starts floating away. And it was like, I saw it and I was just like, man, I feel like I'm in the backwoods somewhere. The way they just kind of like were like, yeah, we're gonna take this $1 billion space contraption and just kind of, put a tow rig on it, and we'll just let it float behind us, like however long, and then sure enough, the thing snaps, and there's billions of dollars in technology, and just sort of slowly floating away from you, like, we can do that.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, NASA, one of the reasons why they did cut their budget as well is because European and Asian companies, private companies, with like teams of like 10, 20 people, were able to create like balloons and satellites that are actually far more efficient than what NASA could, with like half, even quarter, even a tenth of the money. Like they spend so much on making these gigantic shuttles when you can actually, other people want to work on obviously like space elevators and stuff like that, which are far more like actually usable and like friendly in a sense than burning all that fuel like just for like one mission up, back and down. These things would be permanent and they would aid future missions, so people just totally like just don't want to fund that amount of money into NASA at all.
I thought you were throwing up there for a second.
I've said this before. I mean, I think it's hilarious what you just said then. I mean, you used the word fuel. I used the word dinosaur juice. They're still sending people out to space on dinosaur juice. We need to move on. We need to find some. Do you know what I mean? We can't just be burning dinosaur juice and expect, that was stuff that was done 10, 20 years ago. Let's light this stuff on fire and make a bit of metal move. Come on, man. Yeah. We need to think of some more. Do you know what I mean? But the thing is, go on.
Sorry, go on. Well, that's fine.
No, I was just gonna say we know that we're probably, I don't know, if we all survive in the next sort of 50 years. Do you know what I mean? Artificial intelligence is going to build machines that's going to be nothing, but they won't even charge. They're not going to charge for labour, are they? You know what I mean? And then it's going to be, well, I don't know. I don't know how you all feel about it, but I just think we're going to see so much change, and I think when we look back in 20 years' time, it will seem so alien to us, this world that we live in right now. And we look back. I mean, me and Ryder talked about it before. We'll be seen as barbarians. How we the idea that we throw men in cages for smoking a plant that goes naturally on the planet. What's all that about? This is a barbaric part of our culture that we will look back in 20 years and go, what? So they were feeding them loads of pills, but they couldn't smoke the one thing that was good for them. This is part of this barbaric culture we live in at the moment, and we will see that change. I'm convinced.
There is like fundamentally a conspiracy against at least marijuana, if not other drugs. There's it's without a shadow of a doubt. What was the guy's name? The guy that was it was not in his interest as a business. He was like a lumber salesman in America or something, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. Back in the day, really didn't like the idea that hemp was fucking. If you lived in Virginia, you had to fucking grow it. Like it was illegal not to grow it if you lived in Virginia at a certain time in American history. And fucking, this one guy really went hard on the lobbyists and stuff like that. And it was the idea of like. it was the idea of it not being profitable for him because he was a lumber salesman or whatever, and stuff was dwindling and whatnot, sales were dwindling, so it was literally like a fucking character assassination essentially, via propaganda on the positive plants that grow around and are there for our consumption.
Well,
that's the way I see it, but.
On that very one, I mean, you just mentioned that, and I don't know if you're aware of this as well, but the way that they did this is such a sneaky-handed trick about how governments work. When that guy you're just talking about, what he put it into law was, he said he didn't use, because obviously it was called cannabis, I mean, that's what its name is. So he wrote a law saying about this new thing called marijuana, and I was like, oh, we don't know what marijuana is.
Flag,
exactly. So they passed it through Congress really quickly because it was like, oh, okay, and then all they did was spend X amount of years changing the word cannabis to marijuana, and to make it illegal. That's the old George Orwell trick. It's all power of words. You know what I mean? And like you say, I mean, like you just said, the perfect meme always makes me laugh. The war on drugs, they spent the most amount of money on it. You've lost that one. Do you know what I mean? And it's the old Bill Hicks joke, man. Do you know what I mean? You lost it. We're all marching through there, and it's ridiculous, man. Because but when we joke about it, the sad thing is, man, we joke about it, but there's people sat in cages right now for that shit. And that's. When you think about that, you think, really, what are we going to look back on it? It's like looking back at the last century, what they used to put lobotomize people with a knife and just put it into,
they had epilepsy, so they were fucking mad and they had to get fucking, it's just like. It can be made, you can kind of hold the two up, and go, they are fucking similar. We do live in a similar time, but prohibition, man, it doesn't work. It's not something that could ever feasibly work, like in today's society, especially, man. People. There's so much it can be used for. There's medicinal properties. We're just talking about marijuana here. There's MDMA. All sorts of stuff. You could use psychedelics to treat.
Yeah.
There's been research should have been conducted into using psychedelics and with PTSD. But they met a lot of red tape. Is what I'm saying.
It was shut down in the 60s when it became a recreational thing. Even though they were still conducting the tests, it was the 50s. They were like, wait, this stuff can be used for depression and all these different problems that people had. Then it started to get basically popular among people who were recreationally using it. So they were like, whoa, we can't fund that at all. We'd be seen in a certain way, so we need to stop that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to
but wasn't it in part like Tim Leary essentially, somewhat ironically, did he not kind of dismantle the whole LSD thing by ripping, what we would say in Scotland, ripping the arse out it, basically pushing a kind of the whole kind of counterculture thing, was a bit too.
Yeah, it's the counterculture people like that.
To coin a phrase from the 60s, it was a bit too freaky for everybody. And
it was far out.
Yeah, it was a bit too far out, and and apparently that was quite a lot to do with the kind of demonization of specifically LSD and stuff like that, which it has in itself.
Probably. Yeah.
I just thought it was funny. I saw a joke.
What
was that?
I was going to say,
I was saying Charles Manson too, probably.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that as well. Yeah.
I mean, just really, I guess anybody. It's always been used for sort of tribal occult, or just cult purposes in general. But it's Timothy Leary and Manson really kind of brought that whole thing to the forefront.
Yeah, and also
what's her name? Patty Hearst. Patty Hearst too.
yeah. Ken Kesey, all of these guys, man.
I just thought it was. I heard a joke earlier. I thought it was pretty funny. The fact that it's never going to stop because imagine you're sitting there and you're shooting up heroin or something like that, and some guy goes, that's illegal by the way, and he goes, oh fuck shit, get that the fuck away from me, I don't want to I'm not getting involved in that. That's never happened.
Oh my god.
It's oh my god, I'm doing this every day. I can't believe this. I don't know what I got myself into. It just never happens. Obviously, no one's ever been in that situation.
Do you know, I think one of the worst things about this whole situation, though, about like say the demonization of particularly psychedelics, is that with doing that, it's been in such a short space of time. We're talking 60 years, but you think the whole of mankind on this planet has basically everything has evolved around psychedelics. And that's what makes me laugh when people have all. It's since we put the ban on it, we've now got ideas of, oh, there has to be the Egyptian pyramids were built by aliens, and this technology was done by some spaceship coming down and stuff like that. And thinking, well, actually, no. For thousands and thousands of years, every culture around the world used psychedelics to inform how they were going to go forward. It's only been the last 50 years, and then it skews our history of the world. So if you just, I remember when I did that myself, I'm like thinking, oh wow, that whole puts a whole new spin. Instead of doing like you said, the Van Doniken one and being the idea of, oh, there's some higher species that came down and whatever. It was like, oh, actually, no, we've got the greatest machine that they know in the universe.
Exactly. I think it's insulting to human intelligence to think otherwise.
Exactly. We've got that stuck inside our skulls, and then like you say, we have to. It's that. Which I think is weird. So it's that narrative of always making us the weak ones. Where there's always a higher power. Like I was saying before podcast, I had my rant about religion. It's this whole thing about we're always subjected to someone who's higher than us. You know what I mean? It's no. At the end of the day, like you were just saying, 5-10 minutes ago, David. We don't even know maybe 10% about the human consciousness. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's this idea of empathy and stuff like that. And that's what I've seen. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the world before the internet. And what I'm seeing now compared to what the world before the internet is like, well, this is consciousness expanding itself in a way that nobody would have imagined in the 70s. Nobody would. I mean, like I said before, who would have thought 5-10 years ago we would be having this conversation on a
if you asked any occultist in the fucking 1400s, man, this would have been like not alchemy, but like something similar. This is essentially, I always talk about how money is alchemy now because it's all fucking digitized, and even when it wasn't, it's like it used to be based on the promise of material, but now it's just the money in itself is the fucking it's essentially by definition alchemy. It's like it's transmutation in a way. It's making something. Is getting gold from lead, essentially. It's making something worthless or reasonably worthless worth something, which is fucking alchemy. You know what I mean? It's not. Well, it's, in a way, it's alchemy. It's fucked up.
Well, I think it's not actually the archetypal image of sci-fi to be having conversations on video phone. It's only relatively recent this has even happened. Every sci-fi film you saw in the 60s, 70s, 80s, everyone's talking on video phone, and of course then it was sci-fi technology. Now we're actually doing it. So.
Well,
everyone was just like, one day.
Yeah, and they're all complaining about the fucking lag and stuff. Or like, how dare this fucking thing be so laggy when we are like 400 miles away from each other and shit? Like, what's going on here?
What's funny is that the technology to do this isn't that old with like Skyping and that whole thing, and already there's and it's quite popular too. But there's Chatterbait. I don't know if anybody's heard of that.
Nope.
Is that the fucking you toss one off? Like
it's literally what it says. Like you talk and masturbate, man. That's what.
Yeah, talk and masturbate. All right. Well, that was fucking my language. I've had a few bloods. I'm ready if you are, man.
I mean, you can't see it. We can only see everyone from the waist up anyway. Usually, we can only see each other from the waist up anyway. Maybe. Yeah.
Well, it's like it's what you're into. So it's not like. Did you ever do chat roulette? I never did, but I heard.
I used to do chat roulette quite a lot, man. Yeah, but then they tried to make it so that you could kind of filter out the dicks, essentially. They tried to make it so that like.
That ruined it. I completely
you could like press that. You could like make like fucking and they had things where you could like log in and then you could like. Meet people with similar interests and whatnot, but then it just always is just dicks. It's just guys jacking it, man. And don't get me wrong, it's not like it's. I don't want to completely. I don't deny it exists or anything. I'm sure lots of people like to toss off on the internet, but it's just to be confronted with it every time you press next is. You give up pretty fucking quickly if that's not what you're there for. You know what I mean? It's just.
Well, that's the thing that's when people do Chatterbait, that's specifically what they're looking for. But like I was just saying, we have the technology. It hasn't been around that long, and already, like, it's like somebody was watching those sci-fi movies back in the day, and they were like, man, I would totally masturbate on that.
It's like when you know when somebody asks you the question, like, what would be the first thing you would do if you were invisible? Like, everybody, like all the guys, like when you're like 14, are like, fucking well, I'd go into the girls' change room and stuff, and it's always like you'd never hear somebody actually go, well, I'd like rob a bank. Or, you know, like, fucking kill, like, somebody really evil, or, like, I don't know, like, you know, even just, like, playing a trick on the DM. I'll go to the girls'
just a floating bag of money. Don't mind me.
That right there is the fucking human condition, by the way. Chat roulette, that's a fucking depressing thesis.
I've realised what that app should be called, by the way. Wankerer, obviously, with no vowels.
That's why Greg's the brains of the operation.
Oh yeah.
That's another band name right there.
Entrepreneurs in heaven.
WNKR. That's it.
WNKR, man, it's gonna happen.
It actually sounds a bit like an American radio station as well, but no.
WNKR.
WNKR.
Wanker Radio.
Brilliant.
We're chatting and masturbating.
I think it's funny though. You just say then about, you know, like you say. I mean, how many of the old sort of sci-fi films that we see and stuff like you say, they didn't see the internet coming, did they? Not one of them.
I totally agree. I totally agree. By the way, yeah. And a lot of the writers as well, like Asimov and people like this. A lot of them didn't foresee, you know, that we'd have all this stuff so quickly.
Abstract when you think about it, like a sea of computer terminals connected, like so they can access each other's pages that have been posted on a server. Like it's quite an abstract idea when you think about it. Like like as it originally was a series of tubes, as they would say. Good idea.
Well, it's one of the things. I mean, like, go on.
So I was going to say, like in a lot of old sci-fi movies, at least, is just that there's the presumption of at least like an intranet, like, or at least like some sort of like connected network in certain things. Like for example, in 2001: A Space Odyssey, they have like iPads, presumably or some things that look like iPads. Presumably they're connected to some sort of network in order to receive information and stuff. And presumably that's wireless. So like there is in old sci-fi movies the presumption, like in even the original Alien movie, you know, with all the consoles and all of that all over the fucking Nostromo or whatever the ship's called, you know, and they're all connected presumably to a network. So there is the kind of like presumption of it, but they certainly didn't see it coming in the way that, you know, in the way that it eventually came. The internet, no fucking way, man.
And what it did socially to people, and like the impact it really had on culture.
Oh yeah, I mean, a perfect example of that is, just like I said before, when I first went down to Troon and I met the guys who were building, like, say, the new decentralized internet. I remember talking to David Irwin, whose name now nobody knows. I mean, this is what I love about this podcast. I'm saying his name now, nobody knows. 5 years down the line, he's a new Tim Berners-Lee. I'm telling you all now, he's inventing the new internet, and it's going to change the world. But the thing was, when I talked to him about it, what it was exactly what you just said then. It's like, how did you even think about that? I mean, I don't even know how you got the thought process of, like, looking at what we are now. We can all get frustrated and look at it now, but to not only see the frustrations of things, but to go away and work out how you're going to do all that. It's just, that's what I love about humans. You know, the most random, humble people. David Irwin was a fisherman. I mean, it was nothing. He's not some genius, big, you know, evil businessman. He's a fisherman in Troon, man. Do you know what I mean? And he spends 10 years building something. But this is what I love. You know, things that none of us would have seen coming, that to shift our world completely, you know what I mean? And I'm sure there's plenty of other things that are coming our way. That right now, there's some kid in the middle of Thailand, and he's got some program that's going to make, you know, like I said, head transplants. There's all sorts of weird shit coming along, man, and it's unbelievable. Are you really aware of the Ray Kurzweil 2049 singularity?
Yeah, Connor was talking to me about that the other day, weren't you, Connor?
What?
The Ray Kurzweil thing.
Was it?
Was it you? Yeah.
I don't think it was. I don't know if I know.
Somebody was talking about somebody was talking to me about that the other day. It might have been you, or it might have been Tom. I get confused.
Probably Tom.
Probably Tom. Yeah. No, I'm not really too familiar on it, but yeah, like the sorry, tell us about it, please.
No, the singularity is basically Craig Creswell's his idea. Well, his sort of thesis is, is that with every the technology sort of curve is going like this. It's ridiculously quick.
Oh yeah.
And by the year 2049, that's when basically the singularity happens, that man and machine not only meet, but then we have to either meld into the machine or we're doomed.
Yeah, we either get kind of we either assimilate each other essentially, or we basically drive into extinction sort of thing. Yeah, it's like a sort of singularity of like man meets machine. And like, is that like when we would start to get kind of like we would have to like integrate like kind of cybernetically in order and improve ourselves cybernetically in order to survive and stuff?
Well, Ray Creswell thinks the cybernetic stuff is going to happen before then. You know what I mean? He thinks within 20 years we're getting to the point where we will, like you were just saying earlier on, we'll all have a patch. We'll be like our phones. We'd be putting on constant apps. You know what I mean? So
cyborg hate crimes.
Yeah, exactly. Cyborg hate. But the idea is by 2049, it's the point of not only have we melded into the machines, but this is the point. By 2049, we're all living forever. That's it. None of us are ever going to die, because we just basically reload our consciousness into another body machine. You know what I mean? And that's it. We're going to live forever.
You read the Ian Banks culture books? That talks about that, but it's a much far advanced race than we will be in 50 years' time or whatever. It's basically that they're pretty much indistinguishable from the machines that they built, kind of idea, and completely immortal and invincible.
Robert Anton Wilson, he thought that we would have like basically life or death prolonging drugs. Am I looking for that? Death prolonging, well, basically life extending drugs. He thought that we would have them by like the end of the 80s, and then he thought by the end of the 90s or into the kind of 20s, sort of 2009, 2010, we would have achieved immortality essentially. Like he came back and like revised like books that he spoke about that in, and said like, I was maybe a bit wrong about the time scale, but he thinks that you were talking about like uploading consciousness and stuff, but there's a very, very real there could be a very real idea of like stuff like nanotech could open the doors to like cell reconstruction and everything, like that could take like minuscule amounts of time, and therefore you could like essentially have a like robotic maintenance system in your own body that could prolong your death.
System.
Yeah.
Are going to definitely exist within the next 20 years, no doubt. They're working on nano machines right now. Micro machines are completely possible and work. So nano machines is the obvious logical step forward, and I seriously think that will be they'll maintain your mortality, constantly fix things, give you statistics. It'll be like having a constant MRI and like electroencephalogram all the time, just constantly maintaining you and keeping you alive.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be able to choose whether you want to act on that or not, as well. Some people might, that's the thing, they'll create a subculture of people who don't want to sort of assimilate.
Biological purists.
Yes.
Purists.
Yeah, it'll be like fucking
biopurists.
Biopurists. Yeah, it'll be like you can't. Funnily enough, right? You can't talk about the fucking future without it sounding like Philip K. Dick or some shit.
Yeah.
Is that another band name? Biopurist.
That's a hardcore punk band.
Yeah, biopurists. Like they'll be like the new version of straight edge. They'll be like the new version of straight edge. It's just people that haven't got mechanical parts in their fucking bodies. And stuff. People that aren't wow.
But the thing with that, that opens up a really big question, doesn't it? Because it's like if we're given the opportunity to live forever, would we? I mean, like you said then, I'm earlier about the biology, but it's a real. I don't know. It's a real. It's going to be a big question for us.
I definitely would. I absolutely would, bro.
A few extra centuries would be nice, but surely not an eternity.
I think if they can upload a consciousness, people are going to get to a point where they're just going to be procreating so that they can download their consciousness into a new baby of themselves, and that's just going to get like really, really creepy. Where people are just like the only reason they're making a baby is so that they can become that baby.
Does that mean that they'll have like babies like walk like in prams
smoking
and stuff?
cigars?
And, when women are walking past, they'll be like, "Hey, baby!" like whistling and that, like, fucking, some baby going into like shops and everything, going like, "Motherfucker, I'm 28." I can try to get a drink in a bar and stuff, Is it just going to be what it's like? I don't know about this uploading, downloading consciousness thing. I mean, we've got to achieve like quantum computing and stuff. Like that's all got to happen, All of that shit.
Very soon.
Yeah, but it's just there's nothing that's like there's all sorts of spanners that could be thrown into the works like at any point. It's the fucking nature of scientific and technological advancement and discovery is mistakes and fucking big ones, big mistakes.
I think infertility will be a big spanner. Infertility could possibly happen. Like that is a possibility in the time that it takes for us to invent these technologies. Some like the human race could become infertile through who knows what means, but if it did, that would cause a huge problem, and we'd have to resort. Our population would just dwindle.
Yep. Well, on the very subject, man, it's fascinating. I mean, again, go and check out Vice documentary. It's actually I think it was uploaded about 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was around the fact that South Korea. Because of all the sort of because it's quite a small C conservative sort of country, their actual population they think by the year 2052 would be down to thousands. So they're now building sex theme parks everywhere to basically get rid of the taboo. It's like you walk through this theme park and there's like a threesome going on, there's fellatio going in. Like you can.
Sorry, where is this?
Down the east end of Glasgow, mate. Go past Parkhead and drive for about 5 miles. Yeah, you'll find it. But no, it's like you say, that could be one of the big sort of like unseen things that we will completely dwindle as a population because I hear it right now. I hear.
They have too many old people. And they also have too many hospitals. So, because that's happening, they're keeping their old people like they're really healthy, and they naturally usually live longer anyway. So there's now, and the thing is a social problem as well. The young males don't want to have sex. That is a social stigma. Like all the women want is for the males to be authoritative, but all the like males want to do is they want to spend time alone or with like an alternative. Like, have you seen those? They have girlfriends and their Nintendo DS, and they said that's better than the real thing. And so young men and women aren't actually having sex. So you're just getting more and more old people, and it's destroying their economy. Their economy is just going down the drain because of it. And I mean, it's like, what can you do about that?
I sort of like you just mentioned Japan then, and obviously for anyone actually listening, rather than listening to actually seeing this, you can see that big Japan flag. I mean,
right behind me.
Have you spent some time in Japan then?
No, I just it's one of those things where I grew up and I just sort of admired their culture. Like even like it's completely different from ours in one sense, but I just always sort of respected it. And I mean, one of those things where you sort of like, I've done different martial arts that are Japanese and really like movies and some manga and anime and stuff like that. I just don't know, like, I mean, I would have other.
You can see Tokyo Fist right behind you, man.
Oh yeah, Tokyo Fist. Which could be misconstrued.
Which is another part of Japanese culture that Connor enjoys.
I just really like the flag as well. It's a nice flag, and I don't know. I got that when I was like 14 or something, 13.
Well, it's fascinating you say that because I don't know if you're aware, but the beat maker of Sealing Demons, George, he's actually sort of spending a year in China, and he was I was talking to him the other day on Facebook, and he'd been, he's saying he loved Japan when he went over to Japan. But he was saying one of the things that really shocked him was he went out on tour around parts of China, and he went to Nanjing, where the Chinese massacred the Japanese, and he said that it was unbelievable how just those two countries, the hatred between the Japanese and the Chinese was immense. And you think,
it used to be used to be parks that said, like in Japan, it would say when they occupied China, because the Japanese would make parks and stuff like that, they'd basically just completely control the place, and they put up signs, no dogs or Chinese allowed, apparently. I don't know if that's actually true. I don't know if it ever went that far, but I've seen that said before, like, that it was actually, they were considered animals to the Chinese. So, I mean, it's really horrible. And I mean, they had Sino wars, they fought for hundreds and hundreds of years against each other. And there was this guy campaigning for that he should be allowed to march all the people who, like, basically his ancestors were involved in these wars, and he wants to be able to march through China to proclaim the victory over the Chinese, which is obviously totally sick and wrong, since it was almost like a Holocaust. Like, they eliminated thousands and thousands and thousands of people, just innocent people, for no reason.
Man, I mean, I met once when I met a guy who'd spent a year living in Japan, and the two things he told me about Japan that were the most immense things ever was obviously one that most people would know, that he had to cover his tattoos up, which I suppose that's quite a common one that everyone knows. But the other one that kind of surprised me, he said when he went on the underground, he said it was complete silence. Nobody, it was no chatter.
It's always complete silence
all very orderly, very polite, very quiet. Not you could literally hear. You know, if you dropped he said if I could drop a coin and you could hear it. I was like, wow,
no one talks to you. You know what's also horrible? They have signs up in the train stations that say look out for perverts in Japan, because apparently that's a huge problem where perverts will basically grope women and like attack women on trains. That's like a common problem for some reason over there. And imagine if they put signs up for that. That's horrible.
Well, I mean, that's what.
As if it's just like, oh yeah, no smoking or like no drinking on the train. Just like, oh yeah, it's fine. Like, it's just totally, really weird. There's quite an alienating culture.
But in many ways, that's just been quite open about the idea of people being perverts. I think perhaps like a lot of countries could take a leaf out of their book. I mean, it's a difficult thing I've always found it a difficult thing to understand, is their kind of the sexual element of their culture, because the sexual element of their culture is very much based on like stuff that like we would find quite creepy, you know, and like there's certain elements of it that they think there's argue is completely. I mean, obviously, yeah. I mean, it's not like it's just like there's these elements are in our culture as well, but we are not as open about it because we're stuffy and British and whatnot. But like, you know, they're quite open about perversion and stuff like that, which I think is like something that, you know. I mean, I don't know if it should necessarily be monetized. It's quite a delicate thing to talk about, but it's definitely something that we could take a leaf out of their book in terms of like not being so fucking prudish about things, because that's how you stop the horrible sexual assaults from happening, is being open about sex and discussing things about it, being truly open about it, not just being, you know, not just sound bites and fucking, you know, do's and don'ts and sex ed in school and stuff like that. Actually being open about it, but. You know, it's a difficult thing. You know, we're happy to see people getting their heads blown.
We brought in a law that was about 4 years ago in Japan, where to sort of subdue, they said rapists and perverts. They actually made manga that was actually directly aimed at them to stop them from going out and doing it for real. Like, and apparently, according to them, I don't know if this is true, it works. Like, apparently, this actually stops these people from doing this. And I don't know how much that, like, you can believe that, like, but, like, it's a really, like, it does seem really strange and sort of weird to think that they had to do that. But, I mean, like, if it works,
I don't think it's necessarily that they had to do that. I think it's more that they were willing to try something like that. You know, it was more like, you know, they were willing to go like, right, well, this person has a problem. How do we rehabilitate that person? Yeah. Maybe we have to do it this way, or, you know, or maybe we should try it this way or whatever. And, you know, I think that a lot of the rhetoric and stuff, especially in countries like ours, comes from a lot of frothy mouthed kind of tabloid sort of like, you know, The Sun, Daily Record sort of shit, where people just like, you know, get up in arms about everything, and like, you know, they don't think of it as a kind of, you know, in a term of rehabilitation. You think of it in a term of like, well, fucking hang them from a lamppost or chuck them in jail, you know, all that shit. Yeah. Like, it's just like, you know, if we were actually a bit more open perhaps about the idea of, you know, where some people's perversions and stuff and all of that stuff comes from, then perhaps we'd be a better society. Arguably, we'd be a better society because we'd be able to treat people and whatnot. You know,
that is the empathy element.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly, man. Well, exactly. I mean, it breaks down to, you know, as long as you're not hurting me, I don't care what you do. And I think if more people, it's an easy thing for people to say, but it's difficult for people actually to do, because it's kind of like, you know what I mean? But like you said, I mean, that's what I love about all this whole conversation that we've had. All of this conversation. This is all going on one rock. You know, we live on a rock, and look at it. We talked about it's so fascinating. This world we live in. What a crazy place it is. You know what I mean? We've got people, like you say, we talk about the Chinese and the Japanese, and then, you know, and in Africa, I could talk ages about all the tribal stuff going on. And it's all on one rock. There's just tumbling through space, and we all live on it. It's like, whoa! What we like as a species, man. You know what I mean?
I know.
It's the best thing ever. It's the best thing. That's why I love life, because it's kind of like.
We're possibly the first ones to ever realise it as well. You know, to ever know this much. Possibly, we don't know.
Oh, we're definitely I mean, you think, man. I mean, as you know, we're part of this British Empire. Well, we've been born into this British thing. And just think what they were like 150 years ago. They looked at these people like they were either savages, animals, or whatever. And now we don't see that. We're just all fascinated by different parts of the human condition on different parts of the planet. Do you know what I mean? And it's almost to the point now, I feel, and I know it's definitely amount of the circle of people who are in my circle, and generally, is when you do hear people like that. That's exactly the reason, like, why the BNP and that one, you know, are as popular as they are, or unpopular as they are, because it's kind of like, as we were saying before the podcast, it's such an old mindset. You know, man, who's got any right to judge anybody else? Because it's like, man, we're all fucked up. All of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's no one to say this is the right way, that's the right way. As we said, as we just discussed, you know, this world is a fascinating place with many fascinating aspects and stuff like that. And it breaks down to the bottom line. As long as we don't hurt each other, that's, if we all just, like I talked about before, the empathy key. If we all just learn empathy, that's how we evolve to the next point. It's all right, Creswell going about technology and this stuff and that. That's great. I mean, Ryan has a fascinating. One of his tracks is called "The Future Is Cold," and that's the point. If you don't have empathy, the future will be cold. Because as much as technology moves forward, we need to move forward this thing inside our head and this empathy that we all need to have.
Your cold metal cyborg heart.
Exactly.
Well, if we don't, go on.
What's your stuff called, Ryan? You're talking about your music there.
Oh, I worked on this. I've done like this whole instrumental album, and I'm still in the process of writing all the words for it. But it's called "The Future Is Cold," and it's sort of this satirical, like 1984 meets Detroit, where it's just kind of like this broken down future, and there's even a song about. Yeah, there's actually what's one of the really cool songs. I don't know why it just popped in my head, but it's about like a tribe of people that like live outside of the cities, and they thrive off of like microchips that are in drones. So to initiate young tribes, they will have them like they'll do something to like draw out a drone from the government, and they'll have the young brave like chop down the drone and pull out the microchips so that they can use it for trade or attach it to their own body or whatever. The future's cold, so you gotta have microchips.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, Ryan's been as humble as he always is, but Ryan, I mean, as well as writing tunes, he wrote made a film called Bad Ideas, which explored this whole subject. I mean, Ryan, come on, Ryan, I know you don't like blowing your own trumpet, man, but come on, Blake, tell them,
Ryan.
Tell us the synopsis of your film, man. Seeing it is an epic masterpiece.
Well, in what context? Of to me, Bad Ideas was just all about the relevance, and there's so many ideas floating around that as soon as we start acting ideas in a sense of, you know, I'm going to force you to do this, or we're going to tell you, you know, how things are going to be, it ends up badly, and those are the bad ideas. And I don't know. Asking me, Tim. I don't feel. I don't feel like explaining bad ideas.
No. What I'm trying to say is that very.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, go and check it out on YouTube and stuff like that. But it was basically that round of discussion we're going to do because, like you said, it ties what Ryan just said. Then, if we don't have empathy, the future's going to be cold, and it's a world full of bad ideas, and ultimately, we will all just turn into machines in heaven. Now, how about that?
Whoa, you just blew my mind.
Biopurist.
You fucking biopurist.
Goddamn biopurist.
So, I mean, sort of like, bring it back to sort of the band and stuff like that. I mean, you were mentioning today you're playing Glasgow next sort of Friday. I mean, what other sort of you got this Friday coming up? I mean, tell the world tell them all about that gig.
We are on Friday at the Old Hairdressers in Glasgow, which is on Renfield Lane, opposite Stereo.
Down a little back lane just near Central Station. Really nice boozer. They've got a kind of upstairs theatre/gig space, and we're playing with. It's a kind of double header with Modifier, they're a Glasgow act as well. They do kind of electronic live show, I think, 2-piece. And they've done a remix of one of our tracks, which hasn't actually seen the light of day yet. So that'll be coming up soon. So it'd be good to play with them.
On that very sort of that essence of remix and stuff. I mean, do you do much collaboration? Because I mean, I'm always being contacted by bands who love to collaborate, and with other bands. Is that something you're into, or is it?
Without doubt, yeah. I would say.
Yeah, we do quite a bit.
It's more been of a remix format than an actual out-and-out collaboration so far, hasn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been doing a wee bit of collaborative work recently with a few folk. But yeah, it's a kind of prerequisite, I think, of us working together. Because obviously, it's we tend to like hear folk that we really like and stuff, and then we immediately want to remix them and whatnot. So, so we definitely kind of share that sort of responsibility,
Because that's one of the things, definitely, if you go to your SoundCloud page, you'll find a lot of, like you just mentioned there, a lot of remixes of your stuff. I mean, it's amazed me really. I follow a lot of people on SoundCloud, and I look at a lot of stuff, and it's like, wow, you have got a lot of remixes done with your tunes. Is that bands coming to you, or do you go out searching for them?
It's more of a trade-off, a mutual trade-off. Like, one of us contact the other, then they sort of trade remixes, just because we like sort of admire other people's music, like admire each other's music rather, like so much.
Well, I've got to say here. I mean, I don't know whether you've all got nicknames to each other, but like, Greg, you are the most mysterious man in ever. You've just been sat to me on my screen. You just sat there in shadows, and then you just drop these immense wise words. So you must be called like the brains or something of the operation because you're so mysterious, man.
That's not exactly the case. I'm sorry it's so dim and murky in my room. Yeah, I have been noticing that I'm not that. As a bit closer.
No, as to the
I certainly wouldn't say the brains, but I was in the band before those two, so I was one of the founding members of it. So I'd probably take a kind of just an overall, don't know.
Greg's dad. Greg's dad.
A little bit.
Basically, that's what he is. He's just dad.
I'd maybe sometimes take a little bit of a veto on things, decisions and stuff like that maybe I shouldn't or whatever. So, but I mean, it's pretty democratic, to be honest. I wouldn't say that anyone, because we've all done our own sort of electronic stuff, so we've all got sort of similar skills. Though we all specialise slightly differently. David's got a great voice. I can't play guitar to save my life, but I've been doing I've been doing programming for years and years and years, so I kind of concentrate on that side of it, So, yeah, all right, I'm the dad.
So you were sort of mentioning earlier on, obviously you talked about your album, you talked about hopefully, like you say, you're going to do a tour down in the north of England and the south of England. I mean, is there any sort of major big things coming up on that this year? I mean, I know it's quite a lot. I'm not trying to expect you to do more than you are, but is there any sort of plans on the horizon?
Not exactly. A few gigs here and there we're playing. We just sort of decided this year to play, apart from doing an actual tour, to play slightly less gigs and concentrate on writing lots of new stuff, because we haven't really had an extended period when we've ever sat down and written loads of stuff. Because there's always been gigging in between and stuff. So, but we're playing quite a cool gig in Edinburgh. Where's that again? What's the venue? Is that in April? But we've got to do some girl band covers.
As
part of a is it Women's Aid event?
It's a Women's Aid thing. So we're going to do a wee set of everybody's supposed to do girl band covers. So we're going to do going to see if we can get out some Phil Spector or something. I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, we're trying to think what to do. We're basically going to be quite a few different bands all doing 2 covers of girl bands.
We'll do quite a bit.
And the remit is old or new, so it could be proper 60s girl bands or more modern stuff. So
I've got a suggestion for you all. I don't know if you remember this from back in the day. It was only about I think it's about 10 or 8 years ago. Do you remember the Last Ketchup the Ketchup song? No, do you remember that song? That's what you should do. You should do some really cheap, nasty, horrible techno song and give it the Machines in Heaven spin, man. That's what you should do. Don't go for some kind of it's what you want to do. Pick the nastiest girl band ever and do the Machines in Heaven remix.
Yeah. Missy Elliott or something. Well, no, Missy Elliott was one person. That's not a girl band. Damn it. Yeah, we're getting playing a bit too fast and loose with it, I think. All Saints.
If you want to be my lover by Spice Girls.
Yes.
I'm thinking Call the Shots by Girls Aloud. That's an absolute belter song.
That's a good one.
And this is sort of song to I have to sort of ask all of you just individually. What one song in the band are you all really proud of? Individually.
I'd say this is going to be really telling because we know whose ideas were, so everybody's going to say I'm worried now because I've kind of nominated myself by speaking first to go first, which means that if I say one of the songs that I was responsible for, then it's gonna everybody else in the band is gonna be like, oh, okay.
We're all responsible for all the songs. It's fine.
Fuck, I don't know. There's loads I'm really proud of, to be honest. I don't like blowing my own trumpet though. I really like how, to be honest, I really like how Hindu Milk turned out. With the vocoder and stuff. I really liked how that turned out because it was exactly what I wanted it to sound like. That was one of Connor's kind of original ideas, and then
just that turned into because that was something I did, and then just then Davey done the recorder stuff and done vocals over it. I just thought it added so much to it that it just lifted it above what it originally was, what I already thought was a really good song. It just made it totally probably the song I think's the one I'm probably the most proud of, and obviously because it's mine as well. Just totally.
Yeah, it's really nice on headphones. I really enjoyed listening to Hindu Milk on headphones, so I think I'm going to say Hindu Milk for mine. I'm especially proud of, but Holy Particles as well. I really love that turned out. I love how it kind of goes all crazy at the end and everything, and yeah, I really like it, man.
That's probably one of the best to play live as well. That's just a song to play live.
Yeah, it's great fun, and we get to do the big shoegaze guitar thing, and it's really reverby, and everybody's getting blasted with walls of guitar. I like that. I like doing that live. Definitely, Greg.
I have to say, probably Something Feels Slow. Just it's kind of a catchiest tune in a way, and I kind of like it for that reason. I really like the way it builds at the end. Again, a bit like David was saying, it kind of turned out exactly like I wanted it to. So, feels like.
On the Hindu
I love the vocal in it as well.
On the Hindu Milk one, who came up with the title for that, and what's the sort of meaning? Tell me a story behind what? Tell me a story behind Hindu Milk. That's a very.
The story is basically, I think it was in Delhi in India. There was basically a gridlock of traffic, human and vehicles. Basically, these statues were drinking milk that was offered to them. Because people give out, I can't remember what god it is exactly, but they give offerings of milk to this god, and also it dries up in the heat from how hot it is in India. But what was happening, which they never saw happening, was this milk was disappearing in front of their eyes, and they thought this was a miracle. And it's called the Hindu milk miracle, where people from all over India were heading into this one place to see these one set of statues that were drinking milk, and it caused like hysteria. Like, and they still don't really have like
even when it was scientifically or whatever disproven, like people
they never really
refused. They did they tested it and disprove it, but like they couldn't, like nobody would just, it was like pathological. They just couldn't not believe in it. Like it had to be a miracle, you know, for them, and it was all about
odds.
Yeah.
Why would you doubt that? Why would you like?
It's the power of miracles, mate. The power of the mind of miracles. It's what the thinker thinks, the prover proves. That's what it is, you know.
Well, I think it's fascinating. You know, that's another fascinating, crazy part of this world. I mean, I spent a little time in India, only about a month. When I was over there, this is about 2000. There was a guy. This is what I love about India. There was a guy in India who was rolling the length of India, rolling it. You know, like, that was, as some sort of karma payback for some sin. I thought, Jesus. This world, man, I love it. I love the idea that some guy just rolling. And obviously there was people following him and he had his own tribe and stuff. Man, if you've never been to India, it's definitely worth a travel to at one point in your life. Because
what about the guy dancing across America? Was that real or was that on a film? I think that did happen, didn't it?
That sounds like a Father Ted episode.
Forrest Gump.
Well, Ryan's our American expert. Go on, Ryan, inform us.
Has a guy ever danced across America? Oh, he's gone silent. Has he?
Yeah, he's. Sorry, Ryan, we missed that, mate.
You went silent there, yeah.
I said I was going to do my run across the country where I have my cyborg guy, and everyone just need to dance, and cyborg dancing across the country.
Like scanning everybody that you go past with your cyborg eye and stuff.
But America's another one for it, man. I mean, it must be. Do people like do that in America? You know, you're part of the world, right? Is there people doing really weird stuff like that, like, you know, trying to run around the perimeter of the country or stuff like that, or is that?
Dude, people are doing like the craziest shit over here, like
shooting people and stuff.
Oh yeah,
exactly,
but no, it's Ripley's Believe It or Not. You know, most of the time it's people just like. What did I just see? Some guy who got the front of his nose chopped off because he wanted to look like, I think it was Red Skull from Captain America. And you see this guy, and he looks nothing like Red Skull, but he actually had like the front of his nose lopped off so that he could look like this guy. And
what the fuck?
Yeah, that's just one guy. So.
Yeah, I've been to San Francisco, man. That place alone's got more than its fair share.
Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen?
I wasn't. Well, I was just gonna say real quick. I was in San Francisco, and the first night we were there, on the first street that we walked to on the corner was a like big pile of dirty heroin needles. So. And that was outside of like a hotel. Maybe it was the tourists. I don't know.
Yeah.
It does seem a remarkably lawless place, I have to say.
Really? I mean, it's quite interesting because I knew someone. I was speaking to someone recently who'd been over there, and they said that I said to them, "What did you find? How did you find San Francisco?" They said, "Oh, I wouldn't ever go back." And I was like, "Why?" He says, "Well, we were in. I can't remember the name of the district they were in, but they were in a nice restaurant, eating their food. The minute they got off from their table, literally, you know, people were coming, all the homeless people was coming nicking the food off their plate. It's like, it was so intimidating, you know, the amount of homeless people that they saw in this district. Now, I'm not saying that's the whole of San Francisco, I don't know, I've never been there, but does that sort of correlate what you were just saying?
Well, I loved it.
Well, I don't know if it was. I didn't see anybody eating off plates, but I mean, every street corner had, you know, a guy working it. So I did see hippies shoot up in a park. I think I told that story once already on Life as People. It was just to a tree, and it was like maybe 100 feet away from like a playground where kids were playing, and it was two hippies, and they were sitting in this big tree, and they were sitting on one of the branches that had like grown sideways, and they were just kind of like sitting on there and like shooting up, and it was like, you know, in the background I see people playing, like weird.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked up.
But mate, you don't have to go to San Francisco. I'll show you a Paisley story. I remember.
Well, this was on Haight-Ashbury. Like at the end of Haight-Ashbury, there's a park, and like Haight-Ashbury is like this really popular street from the '60s where all the psychedelic people used to hang out.
Yeah,
and
I was totally there quite a bit when I was in San Francisco.
Yeah. Right at the end of I can't remember if it was Haight or Ashbury, but right at the end of the street, there's just this big old park, and tons of people always there, lots of stuff going on, and just two guys hanging out in a tree shooting heroin. Like it's like no big deal. Just gonna hang out, just gonna do some heroin, hang out in this tree.
But like I say, mate, you haven't got to travel. I mean, there's a town just outside Glasgow called Paisley.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I used to get the train up from Carlisle. And I got there really early one morning. I think I was hanging around in Paisley Station. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know if do you know Paisley at all where the station is? You know when you look out.
I am aware. Yes. I'm aware of it. Yes.
Yeah, there's the Waterstones, isn't there? The big pub on your right as you walk out the station.
Yeah.
Out of that pub at 9 in the morning, it came a group of about 10 people. All the girls were all coming out. I thought, okay, they're just coming out, you know. But then they came out, had a cigarette, and went back in. I'm like, they were fully, you know, like in 8-inch high stilettos. The guys were all, and this was 9 o'clock in the morning. I was like, man, how alien is your life to mine when you're going in a pub like that at 9 o'clock in the morning, man? It's just like you say, life is people, man. This world is full of some strangest characters, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get on a train to go to Glasgow. You'll see the whole spectrum of humanity. Trust me.
Yeah.
And I mean, sort of like one of the things I sort of like before we sort of wrap this up is, I mean, it's sort of like very generic, generally one. But what would you all be doing if you weren't in the band?
Making music.
Yeah,
in some shape or form, doing something that's
like there's no,
in some shape or form.
We've all chosen this fucking path, man. It's not easy, is it? But it's fun as anything. It's the best thing in the world. So no, I can't do anything else other than make music. No way.
I'm a bit older than the other guys, and I've definitely over the last few years I'm still in bands. I'm still charging around. I'm still looking to get rep. But it's like, but what else would I do? Do you know what I mean? I definitely want to do something creative. And for years and years, it was me doing it by myself. But since joining a band, I think it just gives an extra. It's probably what I was missing before, you know, giving me the impetus to maybe go a bit further with it, and it's, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, for me, I mean, I've got a decent lecture job. I got quite lucky. I got laid off, and I managed to find some teaching work, and it's temporary contracts and all that kind of stuff. To be honest, it's pretty good work. So, you know, I'm okay. So, you know, I do actually have a day job, but. I'd rather this was my day job, really. We'll see.
Yeah, man, this is the best thing in the world, mate. This is what we all live for, is making art, man. You know,
yeah,
what it's all about.
Well, 100%. I mean, you're talking about artwork. Well, I mean, I can't not ask you this. Who does your artwork for your album covers and stuff you put up on SoundCloud? Who's your main sort of like visual artist for that?
I invented the T-shirt that Connor's wearing is like it's like my secret language, basically.
Okay.
It says MIH on it, like Machines in Heaven. But like I've messed about with a few, like I do like a lot of like weird sort of collage-y stuff that kind of goes on the SoundCloud, I believe, and. I do quite a lot of. I've done a lot of the. Well, in fact, I did all of the kind of video collage stuff that's online, like for just like amateur videos for us. Is just like I've done a lot of collage, like just like cut and paste stuff. But I don't know. I think who was it that did the first album artwork, Greg?
Ryan.
Yeah, the first album was
Ryan. It was Ryan, wasn't it?
A great guy called Ryan Vance. Ryan Vance, his name is there. He did a great job on the first album. It was really nice. Yeah.
And is there any way we could sort of like find Ryan? Is he on Facebook or Twitter and stuff? And where can people find him?
Yeah,
It's
Ryan
a very good
Vance.
question. Yeah.
We'll type it in and.
Definitely. I'm certain he's got a Facebook page. I'm actually just checking for you right now.
Yeah, I was just on that as well. I was like,
so
I can't remember off the top of my head.
So out of the three of you, then, do you mean? I mean, obviously you just mentioned then, David, you draw and stuff. And do either Connor and Greg, do you draw at all, or do any sort of like that kind of?
I do photography and stuff, and into like films and stuff, and been trying to like get into actually doing some filming and writing screenplays and stuff. But I mean, I used to draw a lot, but I do poetry most of the time. That's like my main other hobby, I guess, like aside from music.
Well,
I have absolutely no visual talent whatsoever. I always joke about it. I'm all about the music. Davey and Connor, I think both, especially Davey, have some visual talent. I do take photos and stuff. I've made a couple of really, crap basic YouTube videos, but thankfully other people are good at the visual art in this band, so I kind of leave it to them.
I mean, you just saying then, Connor, you like photography. What kind of photography do you like doing? Do you like doing landscapes, people, or is it in what?
I mean, like everything I've done, I've sort of always tried to teach myself. So it's like you're constantly trying to find the style that you find yourself most comfortable in. So I guess it's always a work in progress. I wouldn't like put myself in a, but I really do like sort of abstract, sort of like dark, really industrial sort of stuff. That's like sort of stuff like the abandoned buildings and. I mean, people really interest me. It's something I'd love to actually get into. It's just obviously it's like making a documentary. You need some balls, basically. You need to be willing to go up to people and go like, "Can I take some photos?" And I've done that a few times, but most of the time it's just you'd expect someone to go, "Fuck off," but they never do. They just go like, "Oh, not today. I'm fine." Just like cheers and just. But it's something I would like to get into.
Well, that goes back to what we were saying earlier on the podcast. I mean, I'm the same. As a visual artist, I find it immensely inspiring seeing some of the old industrial stuff. Just getting on the train and coming into Glasgow, and you come from the back end of it, and you're like, oh, if I had a camera right now, other than my phone, and I wasn't sat in the train, this would be perfect because it's just immense. I mean, Glasgow's a very rich
beauty, like all that sort of stuff.
Well, I've always been fascinated with stuff like that. This is where Glasgow and Leeds are very similar. It's like I said before, there's a lot of the buildings that were built there were built maybe back when it was a lot of wealth and the Industrial Revolution. But the techniques and the effort they spent in putting in these buildings, when you think all the shit that's been put up now, and it's like, chuck it up in a month, or in a year, and it's all like falling down in 10 years. These are built. I mean, you go to Glasgow, there's just an old factory, and it's got these ornate brickwork and stuff, and you're like, wow, man, they definitely took a pride back in their architecture back in the day, far more than we do now. I think that's my personal opinion.
Yeah. Well, even Detroit, it's like when I was going up to Detroit, sometimes I'd look out the window, and as far as like industrial went, it was like the opening shot of like Demolition Man or Escape from New York or Blade Runner, where it was just like big what is it? I guess like big smokestacks coming out of the ground, clouds of smoke and random pipes stretching for miles, and just in your whole peripheral, you feel like you're seeing the same thing over and over again, but it's actually like smokestack here, smokestack here, smokestack here, like sort of scattered out, and it's just like fizzing for no reason, and you're just kind of like, what's going on? Like,
yeah, man.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap this up, where can people find you on the internet and the web? Where give us places they can go and hunt you down.
You can. All of our stuff that we've released is you can hear on SoundCloud page, which is soundcloud.com/machinesinheaven. All one word, just like that. No numbers, nothing like that.
Come and see us on Twitter.
On Twitter we have, I should say that was our debut album, Borders Breakdown, and the last EP, which is Hindu Milk. So all of that you can stream, all of that on there, and there's links to buying it as well. Twitter, we are /MachinesHeaven, without the in, so twitter.com/MachinesHeaven. Yeah.
That's fine. Twitter's the one that's got a lot of chat on it. We do a lot of chat on Twitter. Facebook, we do a lot of chat.
I tend to run quite a lot of crap on Twitter.
All the classics in social networking, that's where we are.
And we're facebook.com/machinesinheaven as well. So give us a like. And what's the Instagram?
I think it's just at Machines in Heaven or whatever it is. Yeah, you'll find us on Instagram, Machines in Heaven. It's mainly just fucking photos of my crumpets. I know that sounds really dodgy, right?
But that's not as bad as that sounds. Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, what the fuck is Instagram actually for? It's for photos.
We'll get loads of hits now. You said that.
That's what it's for, you know. So I take photos of my food and that, and like, you know, there's fucking nothing wrong with it. They were rocket-shaped crumpets. They were shaped like rockets, so that's Machines in Heaven. You know what I mean? King Connor should be the one running the Instagram. He's best at photography, man.
And all that stuff's on Spotify, if that's your thing. And what else was the other thing?
Juno, Amazon,
iTunes. Juno, iTunes, yeah, Beatport as well. You can buy it all on there. So.
All of that.
Well,
where can the fans purchase these rocket-shaped crumpets?
Davey, we've got a new merch. We've got a new merch sideline here.
Yeah, shit.
Well, I'll get that. Our gigs basically. Only you'll have to come over to our gigs in the UK. Yeah. Except we'll be over in the States, of course, at some point. But
yeah, man.
I meant to say about the gigs. We've got something big planned in May, but we can't say what it is. So sorry about that.
Hey, that's what?
There's some useful information for everyone. There's something that's happening sometime. Somewhere.
In the universe.
Yes, at some point.
So
probably
follow
in
us and find out.
Yeah, just come and follow us on Twitter and stuff.
Listen, thanks so much, man. That's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it has.
I love your interview. I love your interview format. More of just have a chat for a couple of hours.
Freestyle.
Well, like I say, lad, it's been absolutely, I really enjoyed tonight. I've been looking forward to talking to you for a while, and hopefully we've got two things out tonight. We've got a new name for the band, and a new name for one of your tracks, and we started a few new in the evening. That's mission accomplished, man.
Yes. Fucking yes, man. Excellent. Thank you.
But we say we would definitely have to get you back on again sometime, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sure.
Absolutely, man. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
I'm just talking to you this afternoon. You sent me 3 tracks. Got to play, and I'm going to play out with. This is my personal favourite. I'm going to go with Healing Milk, just solely because of the story behind it. I think it's very appropriate. We're going to finish with Healing Milk by the next group, Machines in Heaven. I'll do this. If you want to stay online, we can chat afterwards, if not, whatever. And well, like I say, people go out and check Machines in Heaven.
I'm gonna go and get some dinner because I'm hungry.
Same, I'm starving.
Biopurists.
But you stomach purists.
You've given away that we're not machines, Davey. Damn it.
Yeah. No, I need to go and refuel.
I'm just gonna plug in, recharge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm going to the recharge point in the kitchen.
Yeah. Got my USB cable.
From Glasgow, from Zurich, and from Toledo in Ohio. This is Healing Milk by the excellent Machines in Heaven. Life is people.
Thank you, Tim. Cheers. Cheers, Ryan.
Nice having you guys on. Thanks.
Thanks, Ryan.
See you guys. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye.